Happy Saturday, everybody. Like I said earlier on my podcast, I hope everybody has my channel. My name is 12 Gauge, and the future's so bright, I had to wear shades. How corny is that? Anyways, welcome. If this is your first time to my channel, I hope that you find something that you enjoy, something that tickles your brain a little bit, something that gives you a little bit of excitement to learn about, dabble in about, maybe research yourself a little bit more about, because that's what I'm about. That's what I'm about as far as presenting information, presenting lives and podcasts. And I also enjoy this. I want to say quickly everything that's expressed here is my own opinion, my analytical thoughts, and none of it is based on reality unless I play a video, read an article, or even give some textbook analysis. So if I give any of that stuff, then it's real. You don't have to debunk it. You don't have to try to make me look like a fool. At least I'm trying to give some relative stuff rather than just give my own interpretation for 3 hours. And that's not a dig at anybody. I'm not throwing shade at anybody. I'm just saying sometimes people don't really talk about anything. They just rehash stuff that's been over and over and over, and they give information that is sketchy at best. But with all that being said, welcome. It's Saturday night. And if you're in here, I'm happy that you're in here spending it with me. Tonight, we're going to talk about DNA. The other night, as I said, I posted a podcast, or actually, it was a live, and it had some very graphic stuff in the beginning. So I didn't feel comfortable about keeping it up, so I deleted it. And it also had some information that was very relevant to the Idaho4 case. And I know people say, well, creators just talk about the Idaho4 case to get clicks, to get views, to get this, that, and the other. And as you've noticed on my channel, I talk about all kinds of things. Today, my podcast was really just kind of, freestyling, letting you in a little bit on my life and that much, So, the first thing I'd like to show is a video over the DNA. So let's watch this video right quick, and then we'll get into the rest of it.
So about that probable cause affidavit, it is still sealed. A PCA is supposed to lay out why law enforcement believes a suspect is guilty of a crime. This affidavit, we expect, will have exact details about why investigators were led to the 28-year-old criminology student from nearby Pullman, Washington. Possibly Kohberger's connection to the victims, how he pulled off the crime, why they think it was him. All those things should be included. And one of the biggest details may be how, after saying for so long they did not have a suspect in mind, how they made that link. Likely more than the car he drives, that white Hyundai Elantra. National news outlets claim they know about that connection, and they have for several days.
So many family members that we've spoken to so far say they are relieved that someone is behind bars. Law enforcement sources have been telling us that a big crack in this case came from DNA, specifically genetic genealogy. And so we'll be hearing a little bit more about that likely in that probable cause statement.
That was NBC's Gotti Schwartz from Monday. And that genetic genealogy, he said, was the big crack in the case, was something one of our viewers asked us about yesterday. Brian, could you delve into the DNA genealogy database used for the suspect at the U of I? Does the government now have genealogy info that previously was controlled by individuals and private organizations? And how accurate is this database? Well, to answer those three questions, it would require the knowledge of a DNA expert. And it just so happens we have one of those in our own backyard. With Dr. Greg Hampikian, terms like renowned and preeminent cannot be overstated. He got a degree in biology in 1982. He got a master's in genetics in 1986. He got a doctorate in genetics in 1990. He's been a board member of the Georgia Innocence Project since 2003. He started the Idaho Innocence Project in 2006, a year after he started teaching biological sciences at Boise State University. He's also the director of the Forensic Justice Project at BSU. He's a musician, a songwriter, a playwright. But back to that DNA expert stuff. Dr. Hampikian says he has used that expertise to help prove the innocence of wrongly convicted people around the country and around the world. Think Christopher Tapp in Eastern Idaho and Amanda Knox in Italy. Normally in our backyard, today he's in Europe. But he took some time to speak with Andrew Bartlein about the DNA forensic process and how it could have been used to solve this quadruple murder.
The crime labs are kind of behind the times. The genealogists have been doing this for more than a decade. The crime labs are just starting to do it.
Genetic genealogy, what is that exactly?
And so in this case, what it seems happened is they got some DNA. We don't know what from, maybe from an access point like a doorknob or a window. Once the DNA is sequenced, you can then take that file just like a consumer would to one of the genealogy sites that allows police to search public records of people who have opted in, saying, hey, if there's a murderer or a rapist in my family, I don't mind if you use my DNA to try to find them. I don't think it says exactly that, but there's an opt-in box. And enough people have done that if there is a Caucasian DNA sample, you have better than 70% chance of finding the family tree, last name, etc., of the person who left the DNA.
So if they don't get a hit in any of the, I guess, criminal databases of previously convicted criminals, they would then go to a commercial outlet where people would voluntarily submit their DNA to find out their own genealogy that way.
There is a company, Verigen, for example. I've worked with them, and they have a program for the police. Cost about $500 a file that the police want to say, hey, we have this file. There's no hit to the convicted offender database. We use the genealogy type of DNA. Here's the file. Can you send us relatives to this piece of evidence? Just like it was somebody looking for their long lost cousin. So after you get the genetic genealogy match, you get a buccal swab, a mouth swab from the person who is a suspect, and see if they match using traditional DNA methods. I imagine that in this case that they've probably already gotten that far through maybe a discarded cup or a cigarette butt or something.
Okay, and he was talking about a buccal swab, which, as you remember, when they arrested him, they did take a buccal swab, and they swabbed his cheek, and that's how they got his DNA. So they had already formed, I'm not an expert on this at all, so I'm going to bear with me. They formed a profile based on the knife sheath, trace DNA. Therefore, supposedly, Mr. Koberger went on one of the sites and submitted his DNA. So when the police searched these sites, they did a match. It came back to his father. So when they did the buccal swab, they ran a DNA profile, and it matched to the father's familial DNA. So it is my impression that this is how it happened. That's what I've read, what I've heard. So let's continue on with this.
Like that. So they probably, for their probable cause, have already verified the match. But we'll see once it's unsealed.
I think a lot of people have this perception that DNA evidence is just a slam dunk land that we got the guy. But I guess through your work, we've learned that that's not always the case.
The first time DNA evidence was reversed was a case that we worked on. Kerry Robinson out of Georgia. He was convicted with DNA evidence, and we showed that the DNA evidence in that case was bad. One thing I would point out is DNA is very, very good at telling us who might have been the original source of some biological material. It is absolutely, not good at telling us how material got somewhere. So if I, lend you my glove, you can leave my DNA somewhere. You need more than just the identification.
Dr. Hampikian adds that it is a difficult process. Typically, a genealogist is needed to sort through records and newspapers and assist police in finding out, who is alive, where people are, who might be around. And if these reports are true, Brian, that genetics played a significant role in this, in Kohberger's arrest, Hampikian is confident that this is the process and how they did it.
It's fascinating to me. It's outside of my understanding completely, but I get it. I can follow the process a little bit. But that proving or disproving that DNA is what the system he used to show that Amanda Knox was not guilty. He said that DNA was tainted. There was something wrong with it. So it goes both ways, as you said. Is it reliable? Sure. But what does it tell you? That depends on what you're looking for.
Yeah, can be very effective, but he used another analogy with me. If take someone's toothbrush, you could put their DNA wherever you want at that point, and it might accidentally be transferred one way or another. So again, it shows you who's the original source of this biological material. And if it turns out to be true from these national reports, what we're hearing, it seems that is how Kohberger could be connected to this.
And hopefully by tomorrow, with the release of the unsealing of that probable cause affidavit, we'll have a better understanding. Maybe that DNA did play a big part.
Okay, guys, did you hear what the one news anchor was saying? He was saying that it highlights where the original source was. That means that if you take your toothbrush, like he said, you brush your teeth, you rinse it off, whatever, it still has your DNA on it. So you could take somebody could take your toothbrush and they could go leave your DNA anywhere. And the AC could kick on. If there's any cells from your gums or from your lips or anything like that, could be floating throughout the air. So this knife sheath could have been anywhere in Brian's possession. It could have been laying on his bed. It could have been laying on his nightstand. It could have been laying anywhere. And maybe, and this is not speculation because we're discussing how DNA is transferred. So it's not speculation. I'm giving examples on how it could have been transferred, because many times people have been stuck on a particular version of how it got transferred. I'm exploring a different avenue, not in speculation, but based on what this individual just said about the DNA. So let's say that he did buy that knife laying on his nightstand or his dresser or anywhere. How it could have been in his bathroom. His toothbrush, the AC kicks on, the heater kicks on, something kicks on, and it's blowing microscopic things all over. So some of his, I think it's called epithelial cells, get trapped in the button, and he wouldn't even know it because it's so microscopic. So he would have thought that everything was clean because he had gloves on. He would have thought, I'm doing, if he's the one that did it, okay, I'm just using him as an example because he's the one in jail right now for this. Nobody else is. So he wouldn't have even realized it. It's kind of like your cell phone. You lay your cell phone to charge while you're sleeping. How close is it to your face? How close is it to a hairbrush? Or how close is it to your hair? You don't know how many epithelial cells you have of other people in your hair. You're laying your head on your pillow. You move, and all of a sudden, all these cells are drifting through the air. They land on your cell phone. And if they were to swab your cell phone, somebody else's epithelial cells or trace DNA could be on their cell phone because they're that small. And I don't think people really look into the avenue of understanding that this could potentially happen. No, all of a sudden they start with the theory, he touched it. by accident and didn't even realize it. How stupid was that? He had gloves on, and while he was putting his gloves on, he touched it. Think outside the box. Here's the box. Think outside this box. I'm just telling you how it could have happened differently. So if you're thinking outside the box, you're going to understand that this individual could have had that knife or whatever knife it was that did the damage on that nightstand or even in the box for days. Maybe he didn't even unsnap it, or maybe he unsnapped it with a glove that he had touched before he put it on. Because when you're putting on gloves, I meant to get some gloves because I have some in the truck. When you're putting on gloves, I used to work in the nursing field. So when you're putting on gloves, you grab the gloves out of the box. You don't have gloves on your hands. So you're grabbing gloves out of the box. You put one in your pocket, you put the other one on without a glove on, okay? Then you grab the other one with your gloved hand and you put that one on. So how many times have you touched these gloves? The original gloves, okay? You've touched them a lot. So then if you're going to put on an extra pair, okay, granted you haven't touched anything, but yet there's still your touch cells on this original glove. So if you're touching anything, you don't know if you transferred that original DNA onto the glove that you put on top of these other gloves. I hope that makes sense. I was going to get some gloves and I forgot. I ran out of time. I hope that makes sense. So if you take the gloves off, you take the first pair off, you throw them away, there's still all these cells on the original pair of gloves because you grabbed them out of the box with the bare hand. You're taking this one off, you open your hand, you put that one in, and you take the other one off, you cup it with the rim of it, you throw it away. But there's still your DNAs on the outside of the gloves because you touched it, getting it out of the box. And I don't care how careful you are, you could have had tweezers, whatever. You still have to put it on your hand with one ungloved hand. So he goes to grab the knife sheath with the knife in it, whoever it is, whoever did the crime. They either latch it on a strap on their arm, because that would make the most sense. I mean, why would you put it on your pants, or why would you put it on the suit that you're wearing? You know how you hold your cell phone with the little strap thing? Why not just put the knife sheath in there and strap it down? That way you have two free hands pretty much. You unbuckle it, you grab the knife, just like I said in my other videos, you have one hand free. So if he's right-handed, he's going to have the knife over here. He's going to probably have the knife sheath on his left arm because it only makes sense. You're grabbing it out. So you have this hand free and you have this one with the knife. And you've already touched the button with the glove that have been contaminated. That's why during the area 2020, when everybody was gloving up and wearing protective gear on their face and all this other stuff, people were still saying, well, we're still transferring air droplets through the air because you cannot get away from that. It's not a perfect way to not transfer DNA. Or let's say you're putting on your clothes before you put on your gloves. You put on your shirt, you grab your shirt, you put it over your head. all these epithelial cells are just floating through the air. You ever left something for quite a long time and your house is pretty well insulated and you notice within a couple days all the dust that's on it? If that was DNA, if that was your DNA, you'd be able to see your DNA in that dust. Because your DNA floats through the air all the time, everywhere you go. And maybe it didn't even happen in the house. Maybe he got in his car, kicked up some DNA, and it just floated and landed on a knife sheath. Just a speck. It was just a speck. It's not like it was a huge speck. It was a very minimal speck for them to get off that knife sheath. They were lucky they got anything off of it. I hope you understand that. I hope you get what I just said. Let's move on to the touch DNA on a knife. I guess most of you are going to be rewatching this. So if you're rewatching this, leave me some comments on what you think about my presentation, whether it was good, whether it needed some work, or anything of that sort, okay? I appreciate you guys. Touch DNA on a knife. This is borrowed from forenscope.com. So if you want to go read on it, want to do your own research, because I have a tendency to read really fast or go through these things really fast. So if you want to go back to look at this, it's forenscope.com. Touch DNA on a knife. There are the DNA strands. They're really small. It's not that big. The manner of injury may be a clue to the blade used for stab wounds and to the nature of the attack. For example, a cutting action can cause long but superficial cuts, while a deep puncture wound with a stud can cause result. A forensic investigator can measure the timing of the dashes to determine which impact killed the victim. Do you see this part right here? A forensic investigator can measure the timing of the dashes to determine which impact killed the victim. That's impressive. So if they didn't have a forensic investigator at the autopsy, they're going to have to go based on what the doctor or technician ended up understanding about which dashes killed the victim. When the victim or attacker's blood remains on a knife, the knife becomes forensic evidence. So there was a lot of knives, there was a lot of blood. So to say that there was no forensic evidence, there was no blood to be able to swab or, to look at, I believe that there's more blood that's contaminated with the potential murderer's blood on it, plus the victims. So even though there wasn't a knife at the scene, there's plenty of blood that they probably swabbed, and they could really determine whose blood is who. With the data obtained from a knife found at a crime scene, the blood groups, DNA containing skin cells, and fingerprints of the victim or the murderer can be reached. The development of DNA profiles of the skin or epithelial cells resulting from touching emerged more than 20 years ago. Since then, DNA analysis methods have continued to evolve, and it's been found that less biological material is required to develop DNA profiles from untouched objects or skin. DNA profiles from untouched or touched objects or skin. I said untouched a while ago. Touched objects or skin. So me just digging in my ear that gradually, I just dusted off all these epithelial cells that just are floating all over the place right now. Look at the normal camera. If you look at the normal camera after a swab, you can see the patterns, but you can't really see the DNA. The DNA is those white little specks, okay? So if you're looking at a normal camera, you take a picture, you really can't see much. The tDNA zoom camera, look at all those little specks. Those are the DNA trace material. Look how small they are. And if you're looking at this with a normal camera, you would have missed all that. That is the beauty of our modern technology. And hey, Sabrina, thank you for showing up. I just saw your message on the chat. Thank you for showing up and being here. Picture number 1, it said the analysis of the DNA profiles from touched objects has been done for many years. Objects shed from the skin can be identified with touched DNA as there are nucleated and keratinized epithelial cells. The success rate of a full profile from touched DNA depends on the skin characteristics of a person touching the object and their activities before touching it. So, if you're touching something, let's say I touch this bottle of water, all my skin cells are left behind. Just that little scrape right there, just scraped off skin cells. Epithelial cells are the top layer of the skin. Me holding it like this is going to leave obviously a fingerprint, and it's also going to leave some trace DNA because what did I just tell you? The top layer of the skin sheds so quickly we can't even feel it because it's so fine. So it says the transfer of touched DNA on different objects surfaces differs according to the surface type. The success ratio for various objects has been detected at 9% for glass, 23% for fabrics, and 36% for wood samples. That's not very high odds. It's really not. Not high odds at all. So it says touch DNA contains DNA from our skin or epithelial cells that are transferred to objects or persons when touched with the hands or other parts of the body. Although the outer layer of the skin contains nucleated dead skin cells, it has been theorized that small pieces of DNA are found on the surface of the skin and can be transferred to objects that are touched. Small pieces of DNA are found on the surface of the skin and can be transferred to objects that are touched. Because the amount of the DNA deposited by touch is usually small, the term trace DNA is often used to describe low-level amounts of DNA. So think about this a little bit. You're working out. I just got back from a workout. So I'm not a big sweater, okay? I'm not one of those, and I'm not trying to be nasty, but I'm not one of those that is going to be dripping in sweat. I mean, the more exertion I put towards my workout, of course, eventually I'm going to be dripping. But even though I'm not sweating, I'm still perspiring. That means that there's still perspiration that's coming off of my skin. So if an individual is going to commit a crime, what would he be wearing to catch this perspiration that would not be going through his clothing? If you're wearing gloves, probably all the way to where my watch is, right here, then you're having some kind of layer and you're wearing a mask, but you're still exposed this area because they saw the bushy eyebrow, they saw, this area. So this area right here, which is the most mucus area of the body, there's a lot of perspiration that usually occurs in the forehead. So if this individual was flailing his knife and holding somebody, don't you think that probably one of the victims rubbed their arm or they punched him or, anything like that? They would have had his skin cells on their body. Just because they haven't said anything about it does not mean that this didn't happen. Because if you've ever been in a fight, you cannot be in a fight with somebody, either with or without a weapon, and not scrape them with your fist, with your hand, with your nails, with your, with your elbow. And you can't tell me that they didn't swab these victim bodies from head to toe, because that would be ignorant not to find that kind of DNA. I'm sure, I know that one of the attorneys said that there wasn't any DNA or blood linking Brian to the crime. I don't know if I believe that or not. If there isn't, then chances are the man didn't do it. If that is real and that comes out in trial, chances are the man didn't do it. But like what I'm telling you right now, these things are so small that he could be holding somebody and his epithelial cells are going all over the person, all over the bedspread, all over the air, all over the furniture, because you can't stop that stuff. You cannot keep it from going all over unless you're in a plastic bag or a bubble. It's going to go everywhere, and they're going to find it if they do a thorough job. It says, because the amount of DNA deposited by touch is usually small, the term trace DNA is often used to describe low-level amounts of DNA. Identification with touch DNA has become a tool for many cases worldwide. One of the most significant cases brought to light by the touch DNA on a knife is the Amanda Knox and Meredith Kercher case. That's what that person on that newscast just said about Amanda Knox. She was exonerated by touch DNA. And there's been people that have been exonerated by this because they usually use this type of DNA genealogical stuff on cold cases. They usually use it on things that exonerate people who are wrongly convicted of criminal acts. This is the first time that they've ever, not really the first time, but it's fairly new to be using the IgG stuff. Picture 2. It says Amanda Knox, an American student, was arrested for the murder she committed after she went to Perugia, Italy, with the Erasmus Student Exchange Program. Amanda Knox was accused of killing her 21-year-old housemate, Meredith Kercher, who was found with her throat slit in 2007 and spent 4 years in prison in Italy. She was released in 2011, returned to her country, the USA, and acquitted in 2015. It is known publicly as the Meredith incident and the Kercher murder. The suspect, Kercher's roommate Amanda Knox, and her then Italian boyfriend, Raffaele Sollecito, were arrested on charges of forcing Kercher into group sex and causing her death. Rudy Guda from Ivory Coast, who was found to be home on the night of the incident and raped by Kercher, was captured into Germany and extradited to Italy. Gude, who opted for a speedy trial on charges of rape and murder, denied the murder charge but was sentenced to 29 years in prison, then reduced to 16 years in 2009. Look how little these specks are. So you're trying to get DNA off these little specks, which are strands, which are the microscopic buildup of everything that we are. It tells everything by that DNA strand. That's our genetic buildup. That's how they can create another human. They can clone somebody with the genetic makeup of their DNA. The Meredith Kercher case has been a hot topic in the media since the crime was committed. In 2007, 3 people were arrested and sent to prison in connection with the incident. Amanda Knox and Raffaele Sollecito were acquitted in March 2015. Another defendant, Rudy Gude, continued to be convicted as the sole proprietor. He was charged and imprisoned because his DNA profile matched multiple DNA profiles taken from the murder room and the bathroom. It matched DNA profiles from a knife found far from the crime scene, discovered in a cutlery drawer in Sollecito's apartment, in the bathroom he shared with the victim. Upon analysis, a low-level DNA trace attributed to the murder victim was found on a blade of a knife, and the DNA profile of Amanda Knox was on the handle. Another key piece of evidence was the DNA profile of Rafael Solicito from the brawl found in the murder room. Then there was an extraordinary series of hearings and retrials in which the two were convicted, acquitted, reconvicted, and finally acquitted in March 2015. No further appeals are possible. And there's a zoom in image of trace DNA. That could have been the knife sheath right there. I mean, it's not, but it could have been. That's how little it would have been in that little button. You couldn't even see it with the naked eye. The trace DNA evidence used in the Amanda Knox and Rafael Solicito case formed an impact part of the evidence against her. No murder weapon was found at or near the crime scene, so the weapon must have been removed. A large knife was later found far from the scene in a cutlery drawer in Solicito's apartment. Investigators claimed it was the murder weapon. The defense said there was no murder weapon. On the knife found, DNA matching both Amanda Knox's and Meredith Kircher's DNA found a low-level DNA profile. However, the evidence was insufficient. So even though this individual went to prison, Amanda Knox, they later found out that the touch DNA was insufficient. So exonerated her. And it could exonerate anybody accused in this case. I don't know very much about Amanda Knox, Sabrina. I have to go back and read on it. I did do a paper on the case, but I really didn't get into the zest of it all, so I have to go back and really read on it. This next slide is going to be a missing persons. This person has been missing for 4 years. And I just chose this to get her stuff out there so that if anybody lives in that area where she went missing, maybe you could get her name out there and hopefully bring her home. Her name is Jessica Van Zandt Dietzel.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Marnie Hughes in Chicago, and this is Missing on News Nation. Each week, we feature a missing person case from across the country, and we take you inside the investigation and the search for answers. You are such a big part of what we do each week, and many of the cases that we cover come from you. And by watching and sharing these stories, you offer these families and the friends of the missing hope that their loved one's case gets solved. In this week's Missing Series case, the last communications from a 21-year-old mother is what we have for you. She vanished 4 years ago, and News Nation has exclusively obtained screenshots of some of these messages, and we want to share them with you. For the first time, you will see the messages that Jessica Van Zandt Dietzel sent, but no one has been able to decipher these messages. Along with a newly revealed notebook, they are just some of the evidence Jessica's mother says she turned over to police in Albany, Georgia. And now, as she marks the anniversary of her daughter's disappearance, she is hoping that revealing this information will help bring her answers and ultimately know what happened to her daughter.
She's so beautiful. That's your mama beautiful.
After 4 years, the sight of a special photo still brings tears. For the mother of Jessica Van Zandt Dietzel and for Jessica's daughter, another candlelight vigil means another year without answers.
It's ambiguous grief. It's isolating. It's horrible because time keeps going, life keeps going on, and you're just stuck in this place of knowing what you're living with you just lose your person, and then you go to get help, and it seems like nobody really is interested, and then you're just left to live life every day as life keeps going. It don't stop.
Christina Johnson's world stopped February 18th, 2020, the last time anyone saw or heard from her 21-year-old daughter. Investigators say Jessica was at this motel in Albany, Georgia, when she logged into her Facebook Messenger using someone else's phone. She sent these last messages, seen here on News Nation for the first time, asking a friend to call her and saying, "I know I'm in too deep." Police say the phone belonged to this man, Gary Potter. It's unclear how Jessica knew Potter, but witnesses say the two were also spotted together at Cowboy Bill's bar, and investigators believe Potter offered Jessica a ride.
They knew that she had been around him, and he said he did not know her. She had not used his phone, and she had not been in his truck.
Lee County Sheriff deputies executed multiple search warrants at Potter's property. They seized his truck and confirm finding a hair inside, but won't say if tests show it could be Jessica's. Jessica's mother believes something happened that night, either at the motel or nearby at a home where drug activity was suspected.
They gave her something. I think they overdosed her. They did something to her.
A theory bolstered by a tip to a sheriff's deputy.
A confidential informant told him that her body was in a deep freezer and put out there at that old landfill.
Okay. Man, these type of cases, they really get to me because some of the cold cases are based on the individual not living a very normal, quote unquote, normal life. They living a life of homelessness or drug addiction or not really having the money to have a stable cell phone, a stable home, and they're jumping around from place to place. So if anything ever happened to them, the police are not very apt to hurry up and try to find the killer or try to find the individual that last saw them and help the case along. And I'm not bashing the law enforcement. I'm really not. I'm pro law enforcement because, you know, I worked with law enforcement, even though I'm not a law enforcement officer. What I'm saying is, you know, if somebody looks at your lifestyle and they say, well, they're living on the streets or they're addicted to drugs, and, you know, how are we ever going to find this person if they don't have any kind of, as I always talk about, teeth to dig into and, you know, attach to evidence? How are we going to, you know, get teeth to attach to the evidence so that we can find them? Because there's really not a trail. A lot of times these individuals don't want to be on the grid. They don't want to be found. They don't want to be, you know, located. That's the misconception of a lot of individuals when people go missing that are above the age of 18. They don't want to be found. They want to be missing. They don't want people in their business, especially if they're not living the right life. So a lot, you know, some law enforcement agency do not shuffle the process along like they should, and it's sad. Let's keep hearing about Jessica's case.
But she says instead of going to the old site, the informant named on Maple Avenue, searchers went to the wrong landfill, focusing on the newer Maple Hill facility.
They didn't get no cadaver dogs over there. They didn't look in the freezers. They dropped the ball. They didn't.
Jessica's mother says she had been frustrated with Albany police's response from the start.
Oh, well, you know what? She'll be back. You know what? Don't do people like that, man. If we come to the police, we know that our person's missing.
She says she gave evidence to investigators, like one of Jessica's notebooks, found in a parking lot 6 months after her disappearance, in pristine condition.
Unscathed, unweathered. All this stuff is not damaged. This stuff had not been sitting there. It had just been put out there.
And a phone that belonged to Jessica's estranged husband, containing texts from the night she disappeared, asking, "You alive?"
I gave that evidence over to an investigator, and he didn't even book it into evidence.
Both the Albany Police and Lee County Sheriff's Office declined to do an on-camera interview for our story. As for Christine Johnson, she's now focusing her pleas for justice toward a higher power.
Lord God, we just pray for you to bring her to us. We pray for answers.
So much pain from that mother, and I spoke with her, and you'll hear from her in just a moment. With us now, though, is Leah D., host of the Least of These podcast. Leah, thank you so much for being part of this discussion. Tell me how you first got involved in this case and looking into Jessica's disappearance.
I was working as a victim advocate for people suffering from substance abuse issues, and I just happened to be scrolling on Facebook and saw Christina pleading for help that her daughter was missing, and police weren't doing anything about it. So you have this mom out here looking for her daughter, and I knew some of the locations she had mentioned, and I knew a few of the people she had mentioned. So I thought that maybe there was a way that I could help. So I reached out to the family, and that's when we put together a team to start searching.
And what have you found so far? Where have those searches led you?
Oh, we've been all over. I think one of the most horrific parts about this case is that Christina Johnson has heard multiple stories about what happened to Jessica. She's had to envision so many different scenarios. We were out at a homeless camp searching through the woods, anywhere and everywhere you can think. We've been there.
How about the evidence in this case? One has to be that notebook that was found in pristine condition 6 months after Jessica vanished, found in a parking lot. Was that given to authorities, and has it gone through forensics?
That was turned over to police, but the last thing that I heard about the notebook is that they had not located it in evidence. They were still looking, but it was turned over by Jessica's mom, Christina, as soon as it was found, and it was found in the middle of a parking lot. It had been raining the days before that. So there was no way it was out there for 6 months. Somebody left that in the parking lot.
As a clue, what do you think?
I think somebody was trying to get rid of stuff.
These text messages, some are a bit ambiguous. They're hard to decipher, but of what we can see in these messages, what stands out to you most? What is she trying to say?
I think it's not so much what she said. It's that she was reaching out to a friend who I think she felt she could trust, and she really wanted to get out of wherever. Well, she was at the Deep South. She really wanted to leave. And there was something that was making her want to leave. And I think she was looking desperately for a way out. And that's why she reached out to him.
What do we know about the people that she was with that night? Gary Potter, one of them.
Oh, Gary Potter, he has a criminal record dating all the way back to 2002. He was charged in 2002 with, I think, 5 counts of aggravated stalking for another female and a battery charge. He was involved in a hit and run accident in 2014 where 2 people were injured at a bar after an altercation. And he's currently facing 2 counts of aggravated sodomy and 2 counts of aggravated child molestation. And he did not show up for his trial in July of 2022, I believe. And nobody seems to know where Gary is.
So he is not in custody currently.
He is not in custody currently, and there is a bench warrant out for him for missing his trial date on the child molestation charges.
So he is wrapped up in some very bad things. In terms of his connection to Jessica Van Sant Dietzel, what have police said about why they named him a person of interest?
That he was seen with her at Cowboy Bill's, and that her phone. So Jessica, since she didn't always have a phone of her own, she was known to log into someone else's phone and use Facebook Messenger or something of that nature to communicate. And so the last person's phone she was logged into was Gary Potter's. And when they asked him about it, he said that he had never met her, didn't know her, and he's never provided that phone. As to my knowledge, he's never provided that phone to law enforcement. and he's refused to speak. We also do know that they were Facebook friends, and before she vanished, they had become.
So, guys, think about this a little bit. I know I went over this on the other live that I deleted, so hopefully you're not being subjected to double information sounding the same. But if you are, please think a little bit about what I'm about to say. If you were a police officer and you were given this information and you knew that this person of interest had 5 counts of very violent things, and he was the last person seen allegedly with this individual. She signed into his Facebook Messenger. She went to a bar with him, was seen at that bar. And then you ask him about it, and he says, I don't know who she is. I've never met her. Using your logical, analytical brains, would you think that Mr. Potter was lying? Sabrina, do you think Mr. Potter was lying? Do you think they are right to have him as a person of interest? And the rest of you that will be watching this later on, let me know in the comment section whether you think they are right for having him as a person of interest, or do you think that there's some conspiracy-based area that should take him off the list of suspicion? Because right now there's enough to have probable cause. There's enough to have an arrest warrant. He has a bench warrant for his other charge, but there's enough to have probable cause to arrest him for the disappearance of this young lady. Based on the fact that he was the last one to see her, she was identified by logging into his phone, and she was physically seen with him at a bar. So if they ever find him, maybe we'll get an update on this case, and hopefully this mother gets some closure, because 4 years is a long time without knowing what happened to your child. Let's go ahead and finish this up.
Facebook friends just in the weeks before she disappeared.
She's a mother, a young mother. She has a little girl that her family is now caring for. How challenging is it for families like Jessica's to try to do their own investigation alongside police looking into what may have happened?
I think it adds a whole nother layer of devastation. When you have a loved one go missing, your world stops. You can't move on until you find your person. And when you reach out to law enforcement and you're met with, oh, well, she's just out there. She'll be home, Mom. Don't worry. It's devastating, because law enforcement, where else do you go? That's who you go to. That's who should be helping. And in Jessica's case, it took a very long time for us to get law enforcement to take her disappearance seriously. You see that a lot with someone if they have any type of substance abuse issues, or there's anything in their life that's less than perfect, that there's this assumption made. But when she didn't call her daughter on her birthday, her mom knew at that point that something was very wrong, because despite Jessica's situation or struggles she may have had in life, she was constantly in contact with someone in her family, whether that was her cousin or her mom, and she would have never missed Elena's birthday.
My final question for you, Leah, is somebody out there knows something, as you are a victim's advocate and you're working in this community where people keep secrets. What is your message to anyone who may know what happened or who may have a clue that could help?
If you're out there and you know what happened and you're protecting someone, I just want you to remember who you're protecting. Someone took a mom away from their baby, and someone took a baby away from their mom. And they have covered this up and just put this family through an absolute nightmare. So know who you're protecting, and know that there are ways to come forward where no one would know it was you. And just, it's beyond time to speak up. This family deserves answers, and they've deserved answers for a long time.
Yeah, 4 years and counting. Leah D., host of the Least of These podcast, thanks for your voice on this issue and on this investigation. We'll be in touch as we continue to look for answers for this family. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I want to now share with you my conversation with her and what happened to her.
Okay, if you have any information or you've heard any information about Jessica Van Zandt Dietzel, contact the police in Albany, Georgia 229-436-TIPS. That's 229-436-TIPS, and that's in Albany, Georgia. So if you've heard anything, if you have any understanding of where this individual could be, or if you've ran into her, or if you knew of her or her crime, please help this mother find closure. Because she has a 9-year-old daughter now, and her daughter's obviously missing her mother. You know, that's very tragic. You know, her mom is broken up about it, obviously. And the fact that she was in that lifestyle does not diminish the fact she was a human being that deserved to be found, that deserves to be reconnected with her family. And you know that part where the victim's advocate was saying, you know, a lot of times she would check in with her mom. She would check in with her daughter. Even though people are out there living that life, most of the time they're checking in with somebody. They're letting their families know, hey, I'm still alive. I'm living over here. Staying over here, so if you need me, or I'll come by the house. They're checking in. But the fact that she didn't even call her daughter on her birthday, that says a lot. So let's talk about DNA right quick a little more, and then we'll conclude this up, because I'll talk about that here in a minute. Okay. This says, what is the shelf life of DNA? A lot of times DNA and everything associated with it has some very misunderstood things regarding it, okay? And you can read this on the slate.com, and you can go back and you can talk, you know, you can read it, slow it down, get some interpretation. How to identify dead kings and resurrect extinct species. So they're going to talk a little bit about, you know, archaeology. It said the body of Richard III had been found beneath a parking lot in Lancaster, England, according to experts from the University of Lancaster. DNA testing was used to match the infamous king with DNA from a descendant of his sister. What is the shelf life of DNA? It says about a month to a million years theoretically. The decay rate of DNA depends on the conditions of its storage and packaging. Above all, it depends on whether the DNA is exposed to heat, water, sunlight, and oxygen. So let's stop right there. So the night of the murders, I recall hearing it was very cold that night, almost below freezing. You could see in the videos at the grub truck, you can see, you know, pretty much everybody was wearing winter gear. So from the time that they were murdered to the time they collected the DNA, which could have been 12 hours later, 13 hours later, and it was cold, could this have preserved the DNA that was later found in that house, outside that house, on the window, things of that nature? If a body is left out in the sun or the rain, its DNA will be useful for testing for only a few weeks. If it's buried a few feet below the ground, the DNA will last about 1,000 to 10,000 years. Wow. So once we're buried, Our DNA can last 1,000 to 10,000 years, even though we're dead. That's wild. I never knew that. If it's frozen in Antarctic ice, it could last a few 100,000 years. For best results, samples should be dried, vacuum packed, and frozen at about negative 80 degrees Celsius. Even then, ambient radiation is likely to render DNA unrecognizable before it celebrates its millionth birthday. Some scientists contend that DNA could survive beyond our current theoretical estimates. In fact, several scientists have claimed to find DNA hundreds of millions of years old. In 2009, a team of research reporters that they had found 419 million year old DNA inside ancient salt deposits in the Michigan basin. If confirmed, it would be the oldest DNA ever discovered. However, some experts who study ancient DNA are highly skeptical of these claims, noting that they usually turn out to be the product of contamination in the lab. Other scientists studying bird bones have estimated that under ideal conditions, DNA has a half-life of approximately 521 years, meaning that it would be broken down so much as to be useless after about 1 million years. This is incredible. It said, despite what John Hammond and Mr. DNA might tell you, amber does not actually do a good job of keeping DNA fresh. While the fossilized tree sap can preserve insect skeletons for tens of millions of years, the DNA inside the insects breaks down very rapidly. When the organism dies, enzymes are released to begin breaking down the DNA almost immediately. Similarly, the Egyptian mummies may look well preserved. Many of these proteins in their hair and muscles are intact, but their DNA has typically decayed rapidly in the heat. As a general rule, outward appearance is not a good indicator whether DNA is still intact. Wow. In their effort to identify Richard III, researchers used a kind of DNA called mitochondrial DNA. That's usually how they identify DNA, through the mitochondria of the cell rather than in the nucleus. The mitochondrial DNA does not contain the complete human genome, making it not as useful in many researchers' purposes. However, because it's more abundant, there are often hundreds of mitochondria in the cell and only one nucleus. The odds are better that you could find mitochondrial DNA intact than nuclear DNA. Wow, I hope you enjoyed that. Like I said, you could go back and you could read it. He said if she would have been there, the mayor's daughter, they would have seen on the case immediately. I forgot what I asked, but okay. I agree with you. I don't know what you're referring to, but maybe I'll rewatch this and I'll understand what your response was for. Like I said, there's no wrong answers. There's no necessarily this is right, this is wrong. We agree to disagree. And we have a fun time doing it, even though this is not a fun thing to discuss. Knowledge is power, and the more knowledge that you have, the more powerful you become. There's a difference between stating you know facts with no teeth. You understand what I'm saying? If there's no attachment to these facts, all it is hypothesis. It's your educated guess. Just because I've been in the criminal justice field for almost 20 years now does not make me an expert at catching people that break the law. I may know a lot about it, but that doesn't make me a police officer. It doesn't make me a detective. I can't even say, just because I love honey buns does not make me an excellent baker. It doesn't. You must be very knowledgeable in your field with research to be able to have the ability to discuss certain things. That's the way I look at it, because otherwise it's like it's no different than two people sitting around bullshitting. Do you get what I'm saying? You have secondhand knowledge, they have secondhand knowledge. Which team's going to go to the Super Bowl this year? Because you heard that this running back is in their prime or blah, blah, blah. So therefore your team's going to go to the Super Bowl. And that's kind of like what we get into, man. Is like a lot of secondhand knowledge from individuals that have no kind of attachment to what they're talking about. I listened to somebody the other day talking about how some of the parents and the people that were around these kids, parents and stuff, were the reason that these kids had what happened to them happen. Bro, you're watching too many movies. I'm not saying that it didn't happen that way. It couldn't have happened that way. Like I said, we agree to disagree. I don't agree with that. I'm sure we're going to hear the toxicology report come back. And other than alcohol and maybe, I don't know, recreational drugs, there's probably nothing in their system that indicated that they were drugged. I could be wrong. To have that assumption that these individuals were drug dealers, extreme drug users. Have you ever seen real drug addicts? I mean, not the ones that you just see on posters. If you've ever worked with drug addicts, you understand what they look like, how the deterioration happens. And if these kids were selling drugs, you'd understand the process and the pattern that would lead to your understanding of their demise. There's nothing that we've been told, other than speculation, that says that these people were engaged in these types of life. Hey, Jeff.
Hey,
man. How long you been there? How long you been backstage?
Oh no, just a minute or two.
Okay.
Yeah, not even that much really. No, I was messing with my my settings, make sure they were all correct. Are you not getting too much echo, are you?
I just closed my YouTube, so I thought maybe that was it.
Because let me turn echo cancellation on. Might help things.
Okay.
How about that? Is that any better?
That's
check
that's better.
Yeah,
that's better. Hey, Sabrina says hi, Jeff.
Hey, Sabrina, how are you doing?
Sabrina's our loyal follower.
Awesome.
Good I don't know how long you've been following Jeff, but I did a lot of stuff on DNA tonight at the beginning.
Yeah, I caught a little bit from the car, and then I came in and fed the dog, and I did all that kind of stuff. So I'm just now, jumping back on.
Okay, cool. I'm glad you got home. Had a good session with your band.
Yeah, we played in a little bar restaurant tonight, and
awesome.
Yeah. Maybe if there's time right at the end, I may be able to find a short little clip if you wanted to see, because my wife Kathy was sitting luckily there was a table with a little chair right in the front row, and she got bunch of video.
Yeah, we
shot.
can definitely play that. We can definitely play that. I want to see that.
Cool. Yeah, it's my first time playing guitar with the band. I'm usually bass player, so it's a little nervous because it's
the women up front.
That's right. Just my wife. Only my wife.
No, I mean, think about the DNA floating around in that little place. You know what I mean? Like just you strumming the guitar, you're just shedding all your DNA cells.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, you can look at the guitar, like the pickups under the strings, or not. Yeah. There's like all kinds of like buildup of dust and stuff. I'm sure it's like, well, probably pieces of the pick, but your fingers as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I did a whole explanation on the gloves, and on how the DNA, the trace DNA, could have gotten on the blade or on the knife sheath, even though he still used gloves. So that's at the very beginning. So you might listen to that, check it out. Let me know what you think. Because I thought it was quite interesting the way I explained it. I mean, because I was going to get a pair of gloves and I was going to show, I might do that tomorrow well, I don't know if we're going on now that you're here, but we could. I was going to get a pair of gloves and show the room how easy it is to spread your DNA, by putting on these gloves. I basically said, look, when you're putting on some gloves, you grab some gloves out of the box. You don't have a gloved hand.
Barehanded, yeah.
So your hand is bare. You have two things of gloves. You put one in your pocket or you put it on wherever it's going to stay. You put one on, so your empty hand is still touching the gloved hand.
Right.
So your epithelial cells are spreading all over this glove. You put the second one on. So chances are you do this. So you've spread the epithelial DNA on both of the gloves. You put on the second pair. So the moment you put the first one on, you kind of like you just said about your guitar, all of it goes into the air and gets on the other glove or on you. And let's say that this knife was laying in his room, on the dresser, on anything. He rolls over in his bed or he's vacuuming or whatever. There's epithelial, hair cells, all kinds of stuff floating through the air. Unless that K-bar knife was packaged in a sealable thing, there's a chance that his DNA got on there that way. I mean, I'm just saying. I mean, that's just a theory. It's not, a hypothesis.
Right. It's amazing now. Yes, what did Sabrina say? You have some health issues?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Sorry to hear that. Sorry to hear that, Sabrina. I hope you get better.
Yeah. You hope you got a good doctor that's directing you towards treatment of everything that you got going. I know I'm terrible about going to the doctor. I don't know about you, 12 gauge, but my wife has to nag me, and then I finally go, and I should do it. I should go more regularly than I do.
Yeah, I used to not want to go because I didn't have insurance. I worked at a place that didn't carry it. But once I got insurance at this new job, I have no qualms about going and using it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. Why don't we save the car and all that high-tech stuff till tomorrow?
I think that's a good idea. Yeah.
Why don't we do the pro versus con that we were talking about? You want to do that and just kind of freestyle it on what we know?
Yeah. Which side would you want to take?
Guilty.
Yeah. Damn. That side I know. No, it could be interesting. I'll try my best to think from the other side.
Okay.
Than what I naturally, tend to conclude and where I end up. But
Okay. Well, we can take it slow because, I mean, obviously we're going to have to rehash some of the stuff that we've learned. To the
yeah,
viewers that are watching or you're going to watch in the future, we've decided to do a little pro and con of, you know, how we have pro Koberger, anti Koberger. And it seems to be like there's no in between. You're either for him being guilty or you're for him being innocent. So tonight, we're going to kind of give our interpretation of the examples of, like I said, I'm going to try to prove that he's guilty.
it's kind of like a debate class, right? Where in the debate class, you get the opportunity to take either side, and you've got to, like, I always think like Ann Taylor. Ann Taylor may know, completely know he's guilty or believe he's guilty, and yet she's got a job to do.
Right.
and you know.
So Jeff's going to try to prove that he's not guilty. So what we're going to do is we're going to do it just like a debate class. I'm going to give him the floor, and when he's done, he's going to kind of lift up his finger or something to let me know he's finished stating what he's stating, so we don't talk over each other. So we're going to see how far we can go with this, and we're going to see how, I mean, it may become comical. We really only know so much, but we're wanting to have a nice friendly debate and see how it goes.
Yeah. The Wright brothers weren't sure that plane was going to get off the ground in the first couple of tries. So
right.
Here we go.
Well, I'd like to give Jeff the floor first, since, you know, he is the, so you would be the not guilty. You would be the defense, right?
Yeah.
That would make you the defense.
Right.
I'm the prosecutor.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're the defense.
Even though sometimes I feel like I'm on defense, this time I am defense.
I'll give you the floor.
So, you know, where my mind first goes, I guess, is the car. You know, so we see a car on a camera. There's a lot of cars, you know, in Moscow, a lot of white cars. How do we know that this car is definitely belonging to Brian Koberger? You know, how do we know that it's not more than one car? And you know, and what's illegal about driving around at night around a neighborhood? You know, I'm sure we drive past crimes happening all the time, and what's illegal, you know, about that? Man, it's really hard when you have other thoughts. You know, so yeah, so why don't we just start off with that, you know?
Okay, I've never been in debate class, so I'm gonna have an assumption here. So I'm gonna have to debate how the car is relevant. This is how it goes, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna go how the car is relevant and how he's guilty based on the car.
And I've never been in a debate like this either. I've just kind of seen it or heard about it on TV.
So we're kind of winging it. We're treading new water here. Hopefully we don't need.
But I thought it'd be interesting, right? Because as we were talking about it, it's like so often you're talking to people that just feel the same way you do and believe what you do, and then but yeah, it might be interesting to just try and imagine how the other half lives, you know?
Right. Sabrina, you might have to throw us a life jacket if one of us starts to drown. But here I go. How is the car relevant to his guilt? Okay. There was video footage of him coming into the area and going up Queen Road and being seen on camera at 4:05, going around the Queen Road apartments and then going back down Walenta Road all the way Indian Hills, back up to Taylor, on the King, 4 times. During these 4 times, there was camera footage, one that we are not really, that we as the prosecution have seen, up close images of a white vehicle matching the description of the white Elantra that is in question. You're right, Jeff. I know so much about other stuff, and I'm like, oh man, I just want to venture off here, but we got to
Yeah.
stay on course. We got to stay on course.
It's
Okay.
tough. It's tough.
I guess the fact that you have tire marks of him exiting the area at 421, you have tire marks that could be linked to his tire marks. You have the possibility of witnesses witnessing that Elantra leaving the area. Not that we've heard, but there are 400 witnesses. That could be the possibility of some of their interviews. Maybe somebody did see him exiting and it wasn't on camera. So I give you a topic now, right? That's how it goes?
Yeah, maybe that's a good idea. That's a good way to do it, I think. Yeah, because
Okay.
otherwise we could just beat a dead horse on a
Right. Okay.
unless there was something like if this happens with you, like if you feel like you've got one more thing, a rebuttal, then maybe.
Yeah, this is hard. This is hard. Koberger is guilty due to the fact that he turned off his cell phone after he left his apartment and didn't turn it on again until 4:38, heading south away from the murder scene.
This is like playing an old board game or something.
I was just thinking about that.
Dang, I love Go Fish, or something like that.
Yes.
Man, so his phone's off. Okay, I guess I would approach it this way. Well, I mean, phone's off, yeah, but
hold on a second. Before you go into that, are we going theory or are we going conspiracy? Because you're not going to be able to go conspiracy in the courtroom. You're going to have to have evidence. So think that way, okay?
Well, maybe, I mean, I guess we were thinking that maybe, man, it'd be nice if somebody watching that truly does feel, that Koberger's innocent, just call in, come on the panel. That'd be a whole lot easier.
Exactly.
Me trying to pretend to be them.
Right. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
But I think, this kind of also shows too that it's not easy to see like the other side, how somebody else sees something. This explains like a lot of why it's sometimes hard to get to know each other, get to be friendly with somebody that's different. There's a whole lot of cool stuff that can come out of this little exercise here. This is cool.
Yeah.
But also too, it's like to change your mind. I mean, that's why I've always loved, that sounds like he's in a little bit of trouble right now. That Steven Crowder guy, he sits in front of that table and says, here's a topic, change my mind. I love that, and they just have a great conversation. But
right.
Okay, so you were talking about the phone being turned off, which last I checked, it's not illegal to turn your phone off. Man, this is tough. Well, I guess, I mean, it's going to reveal the stuff that I wish we did know as well. It's like, okay, how often was this done? This was
objection, Your Honor. Hearsay.
Or if we want to get real with the way some of us in the YouTube community go, you're an idiot, I'm out of here,
Yeah, go ahead.
That's the way they
I couldn't resist.
This is just tough. And I want to say, like, make it make sense.
Yeah.
And I want to say, just like, not cover, choose like just certain stuff, but leave other stuff out.
Okay,
the
can
car.
I give you another example?
Yeah, let's try something.
Okay. We have cell pings putting him in the area during the time of the murder. Not only do we have cell pings, we have his phone being turned off and turned back on, and it pinging to the towers that put him in the area at about the time the crimes were committed or close to it.
All right. So I guess I would, question the reliability of the cell pings. I would probably try and cause doubt or cast doubt upon that. What about the pinpoint accuracy of it? Is this telling you he's, is it within a couple feet accuracy? You're talking a couple mile accuracy. It's not a big area. It was only 10 minutes from Koberger's house to the murder house, where he never visited, never was anywhere near there.
We have him there 12 times.
Oh, 12 times you have. Man. Well, now maybe he knows somebody else in the area. Maybe he's friends with Ian Harsh. And, Ian Harsh maybe told him, hey, man, whenever you come to my house, just so I know it's you, because I know a lot of people with the same kind of car you got, drive around my house 5 times before, and then I'll know it's you for sure. No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, it's cool. I mean, like I said, it may get comical because we don't know that part. You know what I mean? People are so one-dimensional with all this stuff. You know what I mean? Like, this is how it happened, and I know it happened this way, and you're not going to change my mind. Well, what we're doing right now, do you see how hard it is?
Yeah.
Okay, I got one more, and then we're going to switch. He bought a Slurpee at A&W. No, I'm just kidding.
You should put like the little scroll that's going along the bottom of the screen. You ought to put like what this is. I could see somebody tuning in the middle of this, and they would hear me. If they were to hear me say the things that I'm saying, they're like, "Is Jeff H. Lost his mind?" He's like,
right, exactly.
He's defending Koberger. See, and that's how I like to be free and able to talk about anything for the most part. And I do notice, like, on a lot of the sites where they're pretty convinced that Koberger is innocent, if they're going to make a statement that has any kind of flavoring of like that it's make him sound guilty, they have a big disclaimer that they've got to give, like, okay, now I'm about to say something here. Don't you all dox me. Don't like unsubscribe for what I'm about to say.
Right.
But I think you should be able to speak more freely and speculate and ponder on all kinds of things, like,
Well, speculation is good. Like I've said, I'm not anti-speculating, but you know what? Some of the stuff, it's just aliens.
And, but I think Sabrina is giving us some good ideas to like. So still not convinced that he was in the car.
Okay, so you can use what she says. What I can't.
Yeah,
really
yeah. Sabrina's helping me out with. So yeah, how do you know he was in the car? I mean, I think do you have a photo similar to like Daryl Brooks when he drove through that parade, which was also in a RAV4, right? Wasn't that a Toyota RAV4? Actually, I had somebody comment on one of my videos. It said, because there's 2 RAV4s parked on the Linda Lane footage, they must be connected, associated, or involved. That's just too much coincidence that 2 RAV. Daryl Brooks must be involved now, I guess, because he had a RAV4 also. I've got a RAV4 in the backyard. I'm still trying to figure out why it's not running quite right. It's even red. It looks like Daryl Brooks's.
Okay, give me a question.
Okay.
He's not guilty because.
What about, he's apparently, our side is saying he's got no connection to any of the victims in the house in any way. Doesn't appear to know them or have associated with them. So why them? Why them? And why would you think he would do this? He doesn't know them, doesn't know anything about them.
Mr. Defense, it is my understanding that the accused has been in that area 12 previous times. And based on the cast evidence that we've identified through his phone number, it showed that he was in the area in the early morning and late evening hours. So this would show probability that either he knew one of the people at the house, he either frequented the house to partake in the festivities of the house, or he was able to possibly even have a friendship with somebody in the household.
You know, the other thing that's interesting about doing this exercise is that I see now, like when you think this way and you're really setting out to say, you know, I believe Kohberger is innocent and here's the reasons why. It's interesting as my brain goes to like, gosh, how do you argue this? How do you defend this? It's funny because your brain does go towards like, well, if I can convince you that there's others that are more corrupt and possibilities, like, you know, and if I have a personal, you know, bias against law enforcement, boom, I'm going after them first, you know, and I'm gonna speculate on, well,
yeah, we're gonna go down that route, but I'm gonna save that for the whammy.
Yeah.
Well,
or people that, you know, people that are neighbors. How do we know it wasn't a neighbor? There's so many videos of, you know, people, you know, these Emma Bailey types and, you know, things like that. White Lion.
Hi, White Lion. Welcome.
Is that Kimba? Kimba the White Lion? Is that the avatar? I used to love that when I was a kid. That was a cartoon.
Hey, Sabrina's helping you out also. She said, I would argue the phone signal already picked the phone up when he is still in Pullman. That's interesting. I've never really thought of that. Would it drop the signal? White Lion said yes. That's who it is. Would it drop the signal if he turned it off? Hi, Kimba. Welcome to our chat.
I think it wasn't. I think Lion King seems to me was very tailored after the Kimba the White Lion, you know, story. Very similar, a lot of similarities, I thought.
So, what do you think about that, Jeff? You
So,
think that,
well, here's another thing that is coming to my mind now is that because I don't feel like I know about that, that also might say, now I've talked negatively about those that, you know, from this perspective on this side, trying to argue Kohberger's innocent. The fact I don't know enough about that tells me, you know, when I'm on the side I'm usually on, where I really do feel like they have the right guy and he's guilty. Maybe you can trust the law enforcement things too much, and I didn't look into everything. I take it like what the law enforcement says that, PCA says that, then it's true. Or that I don't go even too far enough down that. So this is good. This is a good exercise in doing this, I think.
Kimba, if you haven't been watching, we're doing a friendly debate. The prosecutor, Jeff, is the defense, and we're trying to give examples of evidence that we know of that would prove the point of what we're trying to get to, whether guilt or innocent. So if you have any thoughts or, you know, anything that you could help Jeff or myself, be sure to type it in, or anything Sabrina's saying. Y'all get to know each other. You know.
Yeah, it's basically like a debate class where
Yeah.
you know, you don't always get to choose the side that you want in a debate class. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I'm on the side of, I've been given the side that to argue that Koberger is innocent. Which
Okay,
is not where
so
I'm usually at, but
so give me give me a question, Jeff.
okay. Well, what about all the people that we see around that area that night, around that time of night? How about the guy in the band field? I mean, if he hasn't won a Mr. Bushy Eyebrows contest in his life, he really should join one. So what about him? What about these people that are in the area that seem like they could be? Why aren't they suspect?
That's a hard one.
You know the guy I'm talking about with the bushy
Yes,
eyebrows?
yeah,
Yeah.
Fade.
Yeah.
I would be willing to say that possibly he was cleared for not being a suspect due to the fact of his appearance. When he's on body cam, he doesn't appear to have any cuts or any kind of bruising on him. His clothing is clean.
Although,
He's
what time is he seen? Isn't he's seen?
He's seen at 3:00. That's whenever the
3, yeah.
call. Yeah, whenever the call came through.
So how do we know he didn't go back? Didn't go back to the house around 4.
You want to read the chat? Yeah, that could be your side. You could read the chat and then see if they're helping you out.
Yeah. The investigation's sloppy. It's hard. This is hard. This is so hard to do. Actually, the thing that concerns me too is that I know there are some they take things out of context and edit videos together, and all they got to do is take one clip of you saying something. It's like, here's a clip where he said this.
Yeah.
So
you're right. I mean, as far as him going back later on, I mean, that's always a possibility. I mean, I've even heard. This is how crazy it is that I've heard. We're getting off course here a little bit, but I'm going to share this. It's kind of the guy. He looked like the African American guy that was at the first of the 3 that got the ticket, the one that got to leave first. I've heard that he went up Taylor Avenue, and he was the one that was seen walking up to the dumpster, dropping something in it, and then walking toward the Linda Lane apartments. I saw that on, I think, Crime Circus, maybe. I don't like the name created, but I just let it slip. So
right, you don't do. Now, should I stay on my side of?
Yeah, go ahead and, or let me give you another question because it's your turn.
Oh, is this what you were talking about?
Yes.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, the clown. Let's address what Kimba said first, so give her some props on here. It said, I'm on the fence. My husband thinks he's 100% guilty. Yes, I'm guilty. No, I'm just kidding. I'm leaning toward most likely innocent. Oh, Kimba's on your side. So we got a 1-to-1 here. Sabrina, you haven't really expressed, so, or rather, there's not enough.
Sabrina was first convinced he's guilty, but then the sloppiness of the investigation changed her mind.
Okay, so here's your question, Jeff. We have evidence that Mr. Koberger was seen at a Walmart buying Dickies clothing and some other items.
Or was it Albertsons? No, it was a Walmart. Well, this would have been before the crimes. Yeah.
So how do you explain that away?
Well, I mean, if I were to go in tomorrow to Walmart and buy those same things, would I be? Have I done anything illegal?
Well, the fact that the items that were bought were generally used for criminal activities, and when there was a search warrant on his apartment, they weren't found in the apartment anywhere.
They found a receipt, right? They have receipt of the.
Yes, we did find a receipt in the apartment for these objects.
Well, maybe I mean, he's particular about, he's a vegan. He has very particular, from what I've understand. Maybe he's also particular about dressing rooms at Walmart. Didn't actually try the Dickies coveralls on. Bought them, realized they didn't fit, gave them to a friend that he knew was smaller or bigger, or maybe he just got so frustrated, threw them in the trash, and just like, so.
Okay, I got another question. Then you can ask me one. All right.
Okay.
You want to read Simba's comment first before we go on?
Yeah, Jeff's enhanced audio, Linda Lane, is where I listened carefully. That's when I knew that there was more to the activities of that night.
Okay, here's your question, Jeff.
For $10,000.
How do you explain? God, I lost my train of thought. Oh, how do you explain the search history on his computer that supposedly had him befriending the victims in the household, where you claimed earlier there was no connection to these victims? It has been found that he is friends on a social media site with the deceased victims. How do you explain that?
Actually, where my mind goes with that first is that I used to when I lived in Chicago, my roommate had a Mac computer and he let me use it. So I was often using his Mac computer. So how do we know? We know it was the computer and we can look at the contents of the computer. But does the computer say these files and this activity was definitely this person? Or was it that person? Or was it somebody broke in, used the computer for a moment? Could have been anybody. Actually, with my friend's computer, it was kind of funny. I learned a valuable lesson about when you're using somebody else's computer, because I remember I took his desktop or his startup picture on his Mac computer. I changed it from what he had, and I put a picture of Pamela Anderson in a bikini, on the beach. And apparently that next day, when he came home, turned his computer on, he had brought some guy with him that was a potential employer, could have done some work for the guy. And so it was kind of embarrassing when his computer came on, and I was like, man, I'm sorry, I won't ever do that again. But yeah, so how do we know this isn't somebody else using his computer?
All right, go ahead and read Sabrina's statement.
Actually, looking back to it, we were talking about, I think we were talking about text messages and stuff too.
Yeah.
Often our text messages are kind of not considered all the time, because who knows who wrote the text? It could be somebody else writing the text on somebody else's phone.
True.
One of the things I cannot understand is that the police was not called until noon the next day, and that probably other kids were in the crime scene as before the police showed up. Sabrina's much better at this than I am. She's good. Yeah. So what about that 12 gauge? I mean,
it says one other thing I can't understand is that the police were not called unless noon the next day. Probably other kids were in there. Oh, so you're saying that the crime scene was contaminated? Okay. We have no physical or chemical, biological evidence due to our investigation. Once our agency showed up, we were able to cordon off the residence. We made sure everybody was out of the residence. We did luminol. We did other chemical tests to show if there had been a cleanup. And based on the result that we received, no cleanup was essentially done that we could identify.
You know what this just made me think of something though. This is really cool. This is one of the could be one of the coolest things is the things that you wouldn't have normally thought of come out of this. It's my understanding I've heard stories about they were having trouble getting Xana's door open, and I understand this as a friend Hunter that found them. So I've always thought that, well, okay, they saw that. They saw how awful this is. We got to call the police. Everybody get out of here. And then the third floor, I always assume that nobody touched the third floor. But for an additional reason now that I think about this, because if they were people all over and they were all running around, it seems like at some point one of them would have opened the door and the dog probably would have run out. So the dog was right where it was left. The dog was locked in the room, as it says in the PCA. So I think that's just a little more proof that possibly the third floor is like an immaculate crime scene, left the way that it was. Nobody going up there.
That's interesting that you say that, Jeff, because if it is immaculate and nobody touched it or anything else, that's where most of the evidence is going to be gathered.
Mm-hmm.
So if the second floor was contaminated, they might gather some information, some evidence or whatever, but the third floor could potentially be where all the good stuff was found. You know what I mean?
Right.
You got a comment.
Okay. I think what's working better is to have Sabrina and White Lion come up with the innocent coworkers theories. So, okay, I have had times where I should have called the police but didn't. But other times I've run to the police station to report graffiti because I was worried about being targeted. So there's times that the decision-making factor, should I call police? Should I not call police? What are the reasons that come to your mind when you think of, 8 hours? Why not call the police in that 8-hour time period?
I'm not speaking at the trial right now. This is just based on my understanding of the PCA. The 8-hour time frame could have been anything. It could have been fear. It could have been misunderstanding what was heard. But then I have since the PCA, I have other I don't want to call it evidence. I have other creators have, put information out there that made me think differently about certain things. But the fact that, supposedly they were texting each other, there's no reason that there should have not been a 911 call, or even if they feared for their lives or whatever, they called people the next morning. How could you not call? See, I'm on the wrong side right now. How could you not call? How could you not call your friend to come over at 4 or 5 in the morning and say, "Hey, I just heard all this brutal shit. Can you come and check out and make sure there's nobody in the house?"
Right. Well, this shows that we're both open-minded because we can kind of see on both sides.
I just got fired from the prosecution on that statement. Go retire, Bill.
You've been disbarred. Yeah. I wonder. My mind with that 8-hour gap. If the first place it goes to is to give the surviving roommates a benefit of the doubt that they just went to sleep, that there's explanations that they could give. That's like, this is what I thought remember. Well, that's the thing too. It's not like them saying, I just heard this. This is 8 hours later, maybe more, 10 hours later. They're actually talking to police and recalling, trying to remember the night before. And if you went to sleep the night before and you don't believe something awful happened to your roommates, you're trying to remember 10 hours later because you just went to bed. You just like, I heard noises. I wish they'd shut up because I'm trying to sleep, but they finally did shut up. And I went to sleep. And now 10 hours later, I'm in a house with four people that I knew are gone. And you're asking me questions about what do I remember? and I'm trying to remember, and you know, I remember I did see a guy walk by, you know, but I wonder, here's what I wonder, if with, especially Dylan, I guess I'm thinking of Dylan when I say this, if Dylan heard what sounded like playing with the dog, and she wants the noises to stop. She lives in a party house, so she should be used to it to some point. But this particular night, I guess maybe 4 o'clock, maybe the roommates have an agreed time. Like, look, after 4 a.m., come on, people. It's got to stop. You know, no more noises after 4, please, you know. So maybe it's like, heard the dog, yelled, shut up. Okay, upstairs seems to be quiet now. Everything's okay. The second floor level, I thought I heard a little bit of crying, and I heard a male voice, which I think maybe it was Ethan, saying, it's okay, I'm going to help you. Sounds like they have an issue that's between a couple. I don't need to get involved with that. You know, it sounds like everything's under control. Okay, so that's all 4 roommates. I don't hear anything from Bethany, so I guess I can go to sleep. The thing you did bring up, though, was because I've heard a lot of people say that the 2 surviving roommates were texting each other. I've never seen it written anywhere. I've heard people say it, but I've never seen it written anywhere that they were confirmed texting one to another. Now, I wonder, is it possible that we've misunderstood, and it's that they were texting, but they weren't texting one to another, that they weren't possibly texting the roommates? Actually, I think it's something in the PCA that could be. Somebody pointed it out to me, and then I think I read it, and I thought, well, no, that still doesn't really prove completely that they were texting each other.
Well, let's save some of that for our next show. Let's kind of stay on topic here.
Yeah. So
yeah, because we'll get way off.
But if anybody, Sabrina or White Lion, if you know of any article or any news story or anything where it says confirms that they were texting to each other, because I think it can be misunderstood. If you say these two people were texting that night, that doesn't necessarily mean they're texting each other. That means they were. Right. The thing it does mean definitely is they were texting, you know. But who? Make it make sense.
Well, okay, it's my turn to give you a question, right?
All right.
Or is it your turn to give me a question?
Wait. Sabrina said something. Maybe we can.
Okay.
Well, we know what she was texting with the other roommate, so she was still able to use her phone. That makes me wonder. Yeah, regardless of who she was texting, if she was texting, that means that her phone is working properly. She would have had the means to call 911. I just don't see 2 girls the age they are. They're off to college. They're in a dorm. You see them pretending to be each other. They're friendly with each other. They're fun. I just don't see them having a dark side to them, like, oh, they're gone. I never liked them. I'm going to sleep. They're not going to pin this on me because I haven't stepped out of my room. I didn't do anything. That's what somebody else came and did it. I just don't see an evil side to them.
How do you explain, Jeff?
Mm-hmm.
How do you explain that your client was pulled over multiple times? Even one time near the residence, his number was taken. His driver's license was apparently with the physical characteristics of the identifying factors that the surviving roommate gave of the individual that was 5'11" or taller, that matches the description of your client. How do you explain that away?
Well, we know there's 22-some thousand Elantras in the area. How many 5'11" guys are there in the area also that have? Do we know how tall Saeed is? That would be interesting if they're the exact same height.
Objection. We'll have to get back to that thought because I'm curious to know what you think about that individual later on. But yeah, we'll have to get back to that.
Yeah.
Keep going. You're doing good.
But I think now you have to take into consideration that my client isn't familiar with crosswalks, and so it's very. I'm sorry. I need to make jokes on everything that not everything that comes to mind has to be said out the mouth, does it?
I told you we'd probably get a little comical, so we'll just. I was preparing the room for it, so.
But yeah, so
it's not easy, is it? It's not easy.
When it shows you how hard it is to see somebody else's side, and
because as we've been covering this case, all I've heard is the prosecution doesn't have that strong of case based on the evidence. But if you break down the evidence and you're asking the defense, which is their main objective, to prove that what they have is not correct without a reasonable doubt, it's not easy, is it? Because I was going to wait for the last one to be the best, okay? How do you explain the DNA on the knife sheath?
Damn, I gotta go.
Oh, Kimba, you or Sabrina want to help him out? He wants to dial a friend right now.
Yeah, right. This is my final answer. Yeah, the knife sheath. That's touch DNA, right? So I mean, that could have been touched at any time, and then and then what preserved? At what point was it touched, and then how carefully was it preserved for that moment, so that it could be placed right there?
But of all the people, Miss Taylor, that it could have been, it came back to your client. It didn't come back to anybody in the house. It didn't come back to any of the deceased. It didn't come back to anybody else that was the witness that morning. How do you explain it being your client DNA?
I know what she'll probably say. So my client likes to drive around alone at night. My client, when offered to handle a friend's knife or a stranger's knife or a knife in a store, loves to also open it up barehanded, loves to play around with it, put it back, and there you have it. And it could have been, man, what if he thought ahead to this actual issue and went in the Albertsons that day after the crime, went in there and just handled a bunch of knives, so that they can honestly say two things that you can see. I have proven he loves to drive around at night alone. He loves to go into stores and handle knives. Asks the clerk, can I handle this knife?
So since we're talking about the knife, Miss Taylor, how do you explain the search warrant result that identified he ordered the knife from Amazon? The same knife sheath that was found at the crime scene.
I wonder if my client has any complaints to Amazon where it appears that someone has ordered something using his account that he did not order, and he has asked for his refund. This is something that has been happening lately, conveniently, right around the time of the crime.
How do you explain your client's inability to be sleeping? By his own admittance, he likes to vacuum, he likes to run at night, he likes to do all these things in the middle of the night. We have his phone pinging by the murder house 12 times in those type of hours. How do you explain that away?
Yeah, maybe my client has a friend who he lends the car to. There's a certain female friend that some were saying that he was often seen with, laughing around the outside of his apartment, and maybe she's got a copy of the key. Maybe she has friends over near the where this crime happened. Maybe she borrowed the car. Be interesting to find out who that person is. I know there's been speculation, and people have looked at photographs and think they may have found someone that kind of fits the description.
She's too pretty to be around Coburg. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. What did White Lion say?
But still, you're not explaining the pattern that has been identified that your client is always appearing to be awake during the middle of the night, which the night sheet that was found has his touch DNA on it. He's been spotted on camera surveillance more than once. And there's no murder weapon or the clothing that he bought. And he has the culpability to do these things based on his education.
So this is a testimony from a neighbor, right? I think that you're taking this from, that he likes to, because you use the word always, but when you use the word always, that's a hard word, because that means there was never a time where he didn't, right? But
Yes,
he's up
very
late.
true.
But this is coming from a neighbor. And now I'm sure if we talk to the neighbor, we can find some dirt on the neighbor to show that the neighbor likes to exaggerate.
Oh my gosh. The neighbor had dementia, come to be found out.
Right. It's actually the neighbor gets confused. Everything that they do themselves, they express outward. So it's actually the neighbor that does the cleaning in the middle of the night. And yeah, so
Okay.
I think casting doubt on the neighbor's testimony and yeah, I can see.
Where are we at in the chat? Let's take a second to take a break and a breather and let you read what the chat is saying.
So let's see. Actually, did we read the one about the U-Haul truck? Sabrina said, I have a good question, 12 gauge. Why is a U-Haul truck transporting items out of a murder house when there is still an ongoing investigation? I wonder, I mean, first thing I think of is that is it possible that some of the items that were in the house, they checked them all out, but now those items are actually in the way of other areas of the house that they can investigate? Maybe they just want the items, out of there. They've documented those items.
Also, I would be inclined to believe that if they used as much chemicals, because I mean they could have been throwing super glue, I mean all kinds of stuff to be getting fingerprints and DNA, and I mean I don't know all the chemicals that are used in order to clean out a crime scene, but I mean if they used as much chemical that they claim they used, they didn't want all that stuff getting on the people's personal belongings. You would have wanted that out of the house, or you would have wanted that out of the house first before you started using the chemicals, so that you were more free to spread it all over rather than only go so far.
Yeah. Yeah, and maybe they take they may take it into consideration that these families have already lost the most valuable thing that's in that house that they're connected with, which is their kids. It may be so they take it into consideration that, well, the least we can do is give some of these personal belongings. I mean, what would I lost an uncle to, he unalived himself. What I wouldn't give for, like, if there was just something that, even if it was just like his cologne or something, a shirt that still smelled like him. I'm sure over time that goes away. but something like that, something along those lines. But I don't know though. They're loading a U-Haul with golf clubs and all kinds of things that some could also look at as they're just completely material things that.
Great question, though. Great question.
Yeah.
Of course, if you've been following this case at all, there's been conspiracy that the U-Haul had Pennsylvania on it, and that was kind of like a foreshadowing, letting people know that they knew it was Coburger. I mean, that's how people associated the U-Haul, because it happened to be a Pennsylvania moniker on the side. But that's a great question. That's a great question. You want to go ahead and keep reading?
Okay, so White Lion says you can't explain the DNA on Sheath. Dude did it if you consider the elephant in the room. Yeah, that seems to be the most damning thing. If there was the worst place in that whole entire house to have your DNA be found, short of being found actually on a victim themselves, that the knife sheath. Because I mean, if it had been on anything else in that room, if it had been his DNA on the chair on the desk, I mean, you could say, well, maybe he did pay a visit, or maybe he dropped off something, and then it ended up in there. But yeah, on the knife sheet, that's a bad place to have your DNA show up. But it's so bad. Maybe I'm trying to take the other side now. It's so bad that surely it must be fabricated. It's so
okay. Now you're going into the defense side, right?
The defense side, yeah. Surely they must have
the cops. Yeah, the cop planted it because it wasn't seen by the first officer. But how do we know he didn't see it? Maybe he saw it and didn't have the experience to know. Now I'm being a prosecution here. He didn't have the experience to understand what was needed as far as protocol, so he waited for a more experienced officer to come and take lead, because he wasn't a detective. He was just a beat cop. So that's not his job to bag evidence, even if you see it. Because I've seen crime shows where they were looking for a missing person. They were able to get into the house and not touch anything, even if they did see blood on shoes, they saw a bloody knife, they saw all this stuff. But without a search warrant, you can't use that as evidence. What if that's what the first officer arriving basically did, is just like jotting down notes of what he saw, but he couldn't touch anything without a search warrant, because they weren't responding to a murder. They were responding to an unconscious person. There's two different things. So you can't be documenting murder, homicide information, or evidence when you're arriving to an unconscious person. Does that make sense at all?
Right.
So, I mean, I would say that would potentially be a reason that, maybe it wasn't seen that early because of that.
One thing I haven't ever heard anybody say is what the color of Maddie's comforter is. If her comforter happens to be light brown, I assume pink, because she got the pink boots. You assume that, but yeah,
you're right. If she had, any kind of brown or tan or something that made it blend in, you're right.
And what was she wearing? She was wearing jeans and a white shirt, I think. So it's not like any of her clothing would have been.
It was pink, and her black boots, and that black jacket.
Yeah.
Great questions, guys. What's the next one?
So White Lion. I don't think we read that one. I'm worried about defense saying the chain of DNA was partial, and the strand had to be filed in by computer or something.
I don't know about that.
Certainly it's going to be attacked. How they got it, how reliable it is, how large it is in size or small it is in size, how it could But I'm telling you, it sure seems like if that even if they found my DNA in that same spot, I'm telling you, I would be kind of apt to say, dang, maybe I did it. Maybe because it's like that it should not be there. If it's there, wow, that's the if I've never been in the house, I have nothing to do with that, I shouldn't be there.
You're right.
Or
Jeff.
okay, wait, here we go. Okay, maybe this is helping because I'm trying to think like the other side.
Okay.
What if my client was there 12 times and he did happen to see a knife sheath outside one night when he was there, and he had parked in the back. He picked it up, looked at it, wondering what it was, and then set it down. And then how do we know the roommates didn't see the same knife sheath as they were walking through that same parking lot, pick it up and say, oh, this is interesting. I'll show this to so-and-so, or maybe this person will find this interesting. I'll bring it in the house. Bring it in the house with me. And Taylor, if you're watching, just there you go.
You are causing reasonable doubt right there. That was great. I've never thought of that in my life. Sabrina says, what I don't understand is the touch sample was so tiny and incomplete that CODIS could not establish a profile, but Orthram was able to create an IgG profile in record time, not the 6 to 8 weeks. I believe, Sabrina, that everything in this case, they were pushing the case so fast and so hard because the university wanted somebody to be caught. And I'm not saying that he was framed.
Hey, I'll be right back. I can hear you though. I can still hear you.
I'm just saying that they were pushing to get somebody named for these crimes. So normally it would take this amount of time, but seeing that this is such a high profile case, they said, well, we're just going to push. And that's just me talking right there. I'm not saying that that's what happened, but, because everything has been, well, we have this many agents, we have this many police on hand, we have all these people that are trying to get these answers to find out who did it. I would think that possibly that it was ran through these systems so quickly that, that's how they found it. But as far as CODIS, he would, unless he had a criminal record or I know he was arrested for stealing the cell phone, but I believe he was a juvenile. If he was an adult, they would have fingerprinted him and they would have had his fingerprints in CODIS if he was an adult. But if he was a juvenile, that could have been sealed and they wouldn't have ever found that, But as far as, him being an adult, if he would have had that done when he was an adult, he would have been if he would have had any kind of prison time or jail time or had some kind of felony record on his record, then chances are he would have had that in CODIS. Does that make sense? You want to read that, Jeff?
Yeah. Also, too, regarding all that, do you think, like this 6 to 8 weeks, is that just the kind of thing that like they set that time frame based on like considering some of their most difficult jobs they've gotten? So they just set that just so they know they can. That's the best they can promise, or that's what they try to get, so they don't stress everybody out trying to go too fast. But maybe in certain situations they actually can go faster, or maybe they all know that they can go faster, but it's best just so that they don't get like slammed. Just say 6 to 8 weeks is how long it usually, takes to do this. Okay, next one is what I believe the first officers at the scene, after realizing what a big mess this is with multiple murders, they immediately should have backed out and called the grown-ups. I guess I'm meaning the FBI or
I mean, they hadn't had a murder in 7 years, right? Isn't that what they said?
Right, and Kathy Mabbutt was quoted in a news article saying that generally when they had murder cases, it was just pretty common that they solved them pretty quickly. So that's what I think they always expected to have happen. This was different.
So you, like I said, they didn't anticipate this was a murder scene. And people make it nefarious. There's the word of the month, nefarious. It cracks me up when somebody gets a word and they just use it all the time. They believe that the police called the EMT and said, "Hey, we don't need you on the scene," after they found the bodies. I believe that they called DMS and said, "Hey, we don't need you here because the unconscious person is really, she's okay. She doesn't want to go to the hospital, blah, blah, blah." And then the investigation began. You know, my question, though, here's my other side. My question is, why did it take so long for the detective to get there and the coroner to get there? What were they doing that caused them to take so much time? They had already been dead for what, 8 hours or more?
Mm-hmm.
And you have these individuals barely, I mean, you have in the picture that we've seen, we see an officer in the back guarding the back sliding door. We see another officer in the front. We see other officers, I don't know if they're in the house, but they're basically guarding the crime scene. So they're waiting for all these other people to show up. What were they doing? Were they huddled up in a meeting room somewhere going, "Oh shit, we got a big one, guys. We need to really figure out what everybody's going to do"? I mean, was it that type of event? I mean, that's not without reason, I would think. Would you think that?
Right. Yeah. Maybe the resources and people resources just aren't in huge number. And, but maybe they had because it was normal that they would have a small number of people that would be expert in this kind of situation. They had a methodology, that they always did things. And I think, the coroner not going out there right away, maybe that's okay because they don't want to, the last thing they want to have come up in the courtroom is like, that coroner, the coroner loves to go in there right away. They always trip and fall. They're clumsy and they dropped all this powder and stuff into the crime scene area, just ruined it for us, and, or they're always carrying their coffee and they're coming into the crime scene. So, maybe they have a methodology that is it's not rushed. It's very careful. It's slow. And I don't know at what point they called in the grown-ups. I don't know how quick they were to do that, but I think they did do that. And so
I mean, you're right, because I mean, if I was a beat cop, chances are the most thing that I would probably encounter early on in my career, because a lot of these cops were new, as what I've heard. Even the detective was only on the force for 2 years. Like, what's his name? Payne. So I wouldn't feel comfortable just taking the lead and being like, "I'm going to walk all over this crime scene, take pictures and everything else," because you're told this is your job. You guard the evidence. Don't let anybody come in or out. So that's your job. Wait till we get there. But I just think the time frame of them getting there, maybe they were waiting on the chief because he was out of town supposedly fishing or something, and it took him a while to get back. Maybe he told them, "Hey, wait till I get back to do anything," because he's the one with the most experience, right?
Right. I was just looking to see if there was an answer, if I just find out when they called in the FBI. I know, well, at least on 12/8, they had the tip line set up directing to an FBI call center. I wonder if that was one of the first things they realized was the calls to assist. Now, I would assume they would realize they need the FBI rather quickly. And
Yeah. But there was FBI already in Moscow, supposedly. But just nobody knows what they were investigating. You know what I mean?
right,
And
right,
that leads to the next question: were the cowboy guys FBI? What do you think, Jeff? I think she's talking about the guy that showed up in that
right.
black vehicle.
Yeah, I actually asked my stepdad about that, and I sent him a little video clip, the news clip of them coming out, because his brother used to be a U.S. Marshal, and his opinion was that he didn't think they were marshals, because that's where I was going. I thought maybe they were marshals. Now his guess I thought was a pretty good one, is that the the law enforcement in the Pennsylvania area are going to be very much involved in this case. And do these Pennsylvania law officers really want to go into the courtroom and then have Ann Taylor or one of the defense attorneys ask him, well, have you ever stepped foot in Idaho? Did you ever see this crime scene? So that whatever knowledge you bring from Pennsylvania, now you're trying to apply it to Idaho, which, sir, you said you've never been to. So is it possible that the guys in the cowboy hats came from Pennsylvania, and that's really the explanation, that it's just as simple as that?
Hey, you just brought up a thought in my head. I love this right here, what we're doing, because my brain is just going with thought that I've never really thought before. What if some of the 400 witnesses that she spoke of some of them are in Pennsylvania? Because they had knowledge of the crime as well. There was witnesses that saw him. Maybe the neighbors witnessed him. Maybe some, people saw him, taking trash out, all that stuff. So not all the witnesses are the pay-per-view people that paid $6 to watch the snuff film.
Really? Would you pay $6 to watch a snuff film? Wouldn't it go through your minds like, I don't want to be connected with I don't want to purchase on my a transaction on my bank statement that says $6 for a snuff film?
They're just stuck with that number 6 because the first Venmo payment was from somebody that was $6 or something.
Oh,
so
really?
it's an easy number to remember.
I think we should just get 400 people together and see if we can get all 400 people to keep a secret.
Do you think they would pay $6 to watch our live for, information?
I do have new lighting and new microphones set up and everything. So maybe it's
worth
$3.
My lighting is never the same. It's dark in some of them. It's light in some
That's
of them.
fine.
That
don't matter. What you have to say is top notch. So that's why, No, but I did buy this new. I don't know if you. No, I can't hold it up. The cable's too short. But it's a Focusrite microphone interface, and I'd heard about it, and it actually will hopefully, part of Sunday night, if I can, I'd like to play my guitar with those guys that do that live show.
That'd be awesome.
They finish up around 7, I think, or so. But but this allows me to, I think, plug my guitar in. They can actually
hear. Are watching the show coming up tomorrow night. We're trying to plan it probably about 8 o'clock. Isn't that what we said, Jeff?
Yeah. I think 8 o'clock would be safe, because that'll definitely be over.
I don't know what happened. What else? I don't know what happened. Did you hear that? It froze or something?
Yeah, I saw your face freeze for just a second.
Well, yours did too. We're planning on an 8 o'clock tomorrow, guys. So if you are around, don't have anything going on, come join us. We're gonna have more material that we're gonna put out, continue to analyze, and have analytical kind of educational stuff going on. Let's go on with the next question. It says, at the time, folks online were speculating it was because of crossing over state lines. I don't really know what that was about, but do you, Jeff?
No. So that's something to do with crossing over between Washington and Idaho, I guess. Yeah, I don't have much to say on that.
Okay. Sabrina says, I'm not sure if they were FBI. None of them were included in the press conference and answered comments. I don't believe so. I don't remember. I mean, they look like guys that you would not necessarily see all the time because they were covering their faces. They were trying to get in and out really quickly. They didn't look like guys that wanted to stop and have a conversation with the with the camera crews, and everything that was going around. I mean, there for a little while there was speculation that they were getting organs from the walls. That's what was in that big brown bag. You could see a little bit of blood dripping, which was totally ignorant. I thought that was the most ignorant statement, but people are entitled to believe what they want to believe. I'm not the moral compass of YouTube.
Which statement are you talking about?
Where that one guy was caught with that big brown bag, they were saying that you could kind of see the outline of something in there with blood dripping, through the bag. So
Okay.
I don't know.
I was just looking at the because Albrightsville Police Department, if that that's where Koberger's parents' house was. So they do have a Pocono Mountain Regional Police website. I was just looking to see if by chance maybe there's photos of some of the guys there in cowboy hats.
Right.
So far, I don't.
I'm pretty sure if they weren't FBI, they were definitely marshals, or they might have been clinicians, or maybe they forgot some chemicals that they went to pick up. Maybe they were the guys that were doing the chemical cleanup, and they were because nobody talks about that either. Let me talk about that really quick. Do you remember after they released all the stuff out of the house, there was a chemical crew that was there for at least 2 days before they halted that cleanup. So how much did they do? How much did they damage? How much did they contaminate on the scene? I wouldn't think that these guys were average workers that were dressed too nice, and most people that wear cowboy hats, and this is a stereotype because I'm from Texas, over here they're usually rangers. They're upper level, DPS officers or rangers or even FBI, because they wear cowboy hats and stuff like that. They're dressed like that. But I mean, we could assume all day long, but I bet that they wouldn't have been able to just walk in that house without that security guy knowing who the hell they were. And if they were, then they just contaminated everything else also.
Right.
But I doubt it. You're up, Jeff.
Well, I'm looking. I see. Where is Branson? This came up in the search, but I don't know if Branson is anywhere near the Poconos. But there's there's
in Missouri.
Oh, okay. There was three police officers in cowboy hats. I don't know. It's got.
You got a question.
What do we got? Let me switch back.
Kimba.
The 4chan. What do you think about the 4chan frat anon theory? I just actually, it was 12 gauge. You were first turning me on to the 4chan stuff. I had never really looked into 4chan that much. But are you basically asking what are the thoughts about is it a frat guys that did this or some fight club involved?
I think she's asking very early on. They had a frat on that 4chan page that they described that 2 frat guys, were caught by Ethan and Xana doing certain things, and it was the first discussion of the potential fight that went on at Sigma Chi. This was the first relevance of it, and they described these individuals and what their parents did for a living, and supposedly one of them parents owned a cleaning company or whatever, and they cleaned up the crime scene. They took the evidence to Garden City buried it, and blah blah blah. And then there was obviously the Brian supposedly commenting on the 4chan or the other one, where he was talking about what he did the night of the murder. This is what I did to their intestine, blah blah blah. I did this to Kaylee. And then the last one said, I think part of it said, you'll I'm in the shit, or you'll find me in the shit hills of Pennsylvania or something like that. I'm just paraphrasing because I can't really remember all of it verbatim.
Right.
But all of that last one was supposedly how they found him. The one that talked about being in shithole Pennsylvania or something.
Right.
So
I saw a guy on Drunk Turkey Show. That other guy has a channel too, and he's done some like tests with lighting and trying to simulate the lighting in the house and stuff like that. But I thought he made a good point. It's like, if somebody is going to go to all that trouble, have a cleaning company, clean the house, do all that, they got 8 hours to do it. Wouldn't you just take the bodies out as well? I mean, wouldn't you just, if you're going to clean it up, I'm trying to think of, well, I know it's Pulp Fiction, it's a movie, but when they called in the wolf, I mean, did the wolf have them leave the body but just clean the car? They even took care of the car. I mean,
let me give you a better example. John Wick, where he calls the cleaning company to come.
No, I haven't seen it yet. My stepson was watching it just yesterday, and I was like, oh man, I don't want to see it because I've always intended to watch these movies, but I haven't seen them yet.
You need to watch that because that'll give you an illustration on the cleanup crew, and you'll be like, holy shit, if that really happened, then then we're good. But yeah, I like Pulp Fiction. I think that's one of your favorite movies. You reference it a lot.
Yeah. I've got a friend, and sometimes I feel like we could have conversations where we just do nothing but quotes from the movie, and we'd be able to understand each other, no matter what we're talking about. But
White Line says yes, all that, but specifically all the gore that was supposedly left at the crime scene. Also, the first news report that this was a horrific crime scene. Yes, I spoke on that, about the intestines and this and that about Kaylee and an injury that she had and this and that and the other. One thing about all of this that I really don't understand, that I can't wrap my mind around, it's how a not normal, I hate to use that word, but a functioning individual in society would have the audacity to just make stuff like this up and put it out to the world. Like, are you that antisocial that you hate humanity that much?
Uh-oh, you froze. And it was at this moment where 12 Gauge remembered he didn't pay his Verizon bill. Maybe you have to reset, but yeah. So you were talking about how could people do? Oh, you're back. I think I see you.
Yeah.
Oh, you froze again. Oh, you're good now. I see you.
Okay.
But so I think I only caught the last part of where you said, are people really this
sadistic, antisocial?
Yeah. There's definitely a desire for people that some people want to inject themselves into the case. They want to be part of it. They want to, if they're not wanting to be brilliant and be the one that has solved it and figured out the mystery that nobody else can seem to figure out, there's that side of it. But there's also the side of it. It's like, can I pretend to be somebody close to the case? Can I pretend to, you know, there've been some times where I'm like have said things in chats and you know, people will say, oh, I wouldn't be surprised if Jeff H is FBI, or Jeff H is you know, so you start to get like, wow, people can really like jump to serious conclusions to say like what your involvement is. So if they've ever had an experience like these people, they've had an experience where it's like, wow, they really believed the things that I said, you know, so they decided to say, well, like Papa Rogers. I think Papa Rogers has I wonder sometimes if Papa Rogers just isn't one of those guys who it just feels they were know-it-all and they know all the answers and they know this, that, and the other. And so when people were posing questions to him, he's like, yeah, it's probably, they probably found the knife sheath, you know,
Right.
that was it. Oh, this is probably what happened. And then everybody just started to think, wow, that guess was just a little too good. You know, I think you must be the killer, you know, that kind of thing. I don't know.
I mean, I believe that.
Yeah, Sabrina, that's right. What Sabrina said there. Yeah.
I believe that, first of all, let me tell the people in chat, I'm enjoying the fact that you guys are giving us questions. I love it. Thank you for being here. Thank you for giving us something to think about. Hopefully, we get more people involved in this that can intellectually weave their mind around something different than the conspiracy stuff. But on that note, what we're talking about, you know, is like, I would never get on an anonymous page and be like, well, I'm gonna put this out there. I'm gonna put this out there. Just because I can, just because I'm anonymous. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, or on the other avenue, like what we're talking about, what do you get if you're right about what you've speculated? Like, let's say that during the trial, you and I, based on our debate tonight, we've touched on some areas that they talk about. Are we going to instantly get online and be like, we need to go tell the world that we talked about this before they even thought about it?
Right.
I mean, how ignorant did that sound? It's like getting a prize for nothing. It's like, there's no prize in this.
Yeah.
Even if some of the creators thought about something and they got it right, what do they win? Does it show that they're that much more intellectual than other people? No, it doesn't. It shows that they probably got their information from firsthand knowledge that not everybody was relevant to.
Well, it's like the news agencies. I know now I don't know if somebody keeps record of who broke a story first, but I know they're very proud to say it's like, you know, here on News 11, we were the first to break this story, you know, of this Idaho4 case, you know, or this case or that case. I don't know if that gets recorded somewhere, and like at the end of the year when they're like analyzing like who was really top notch in their investigative news reporting, they get an award or something. So maybe it's a little trophy or something, you know. So
yeah, like, well, this is the news station that always get the firsthand knowledge first, you know, or something like that.
But I've heard YouTubers that, you know, go off on people and they're saying things like, I said that first. I was, you know, it's like, I mean, I've seen things that I know I said, and then I see them popping up here and there, and it's like, well, I don't know if it was because I said it, you know. It's, you know, and the thing is like all our brains it's possible that our brains come to the same conclusions right around the same time, you know. So
yeah, exactly.
I try not to worry about that.
Like tomorrow, if part of this is streamed and talked about, and they start saying, well, we said this back at the beginning, or we talked about this back at the beginning, what does it matter?
Yeah. Yeah.
What does it matter? Does it mean that you're much smarter than we are, or does it mean that maybe we told it in a way that people understand it, where rather than the way that you told it was so intellectual that people didn't get it?
Yeah.
You know, because some people understand certain creators better than they understand other creators.
I think it's more
For
important
that
too
matter.
to, if it's possible that what you say or what you have thought about or conveyed is something that can help the investigation and help figure out the truth of all this matter, that I would be very honored to be part of, be part of something like that happening. I don't care if it's first or because I mean, I've got that overlay of the Elantra on my YouTube channel. I know, I can think right now of like 3, 4, 5 others that I've seen do the same, kind of thing. It's not
Yeah.
so there's all kind of, we're all like putting our thinking hats on and trying to figure out what is going on. And whether it be something that is you say like during your live stream that benefits either the prosecution or benefits the defense. If it was something that wasn't there before or a thought and it got closer to truth, then I think that's a good thing. Either whichever side it's on.
I mean, yeah, I agree with you, Jeff. I think I've learned some things tonight that I really have never really considered or thought of. That's why it's always essential to really have some dialogue going on with somebody that you can really articulate your evidence or your thoughts or whatever. They can get you thinking on some areas that maybe you haven't thought of before.
It's healthy. I think it's very healthy.
I mean,
well, think about the jury room. If you think about the jury room, there's going to be 12 people in the jury room that are, well, in the alternates, there's even more, right? So, but, or no, maybe they're not in there for deliberation. I don't know. But you got these 12 people that are in there and they're going to be having discussions. And if they have healthy discussions where, some people are on this side, some people are on this side, they have healthy discussions about it, I think that has a better chance of getting to the truth, getting to a fair judgment in the end. But can you imagine if the majority of the people in the jury room behave like some of us on YouTube, where it's like, if there's only 1 or 2 that have a different opinion and they're treated pretty poorly, and then those people just like, forget this. I don't care anymore. I just want to go home. I want this to be over. You 10 people that have treated us like crap and don't think that our opinions are valid, or you calling us stupid, or, if it ever, I don't know that it ever gets that way. I imagine they have somebody in there from law enforcement making sure it doesn't get too ugly, or are they left completely alone? I don't know.
They're left alone with a bailiff at the door outside just in case they need some assistance.
So they're not listening.
But think about, I mean, we're talking about new generation juries. We're not talking about the juries of old like you and I, where we use our brain to come to a common denominator.
Yeah.
These juries are going to be like YouTube creators. They're going to have the conspiracies, and they're going to be with all the evidence that they have. And some of them are still not going to believe it because it's something that goes against what they've held on to this whole time.
Mm-hmm.
So if they prove that he's innocent and you've thought this whole time he's guilty, how the hell are you going to talk your way out of saying, okay, I vote not guilty? When in your mind, in your heart, and every friend you have on these chats and everything else, they're siding with you. How are you going to be able to show your face?
Yeah.
I mean, most people don't show their face anyway, but how are you going to show your screen name when you voted not guilty after 3 years you were certain he was a guilty person?
Right. Would you ever see that movie 12 Angry Men? with Henry Fonda. I think that's a story basically of one guy who was the only different opinion in the jury, and he manages to turn it all around so that it's everybody on the jury is in agreement with him, and he sees things, they see things the way that he initially saw them. So it's it's very much an uphill battle of, like, he felt very strongly and he presented his, what he believed from the evidence that was given. And it's been a long time since I've seen it, but that's the basic gist of what happens in the movie. Sorry to ruin it for you, but
if they really, if they really wanted, this would never happen, but if they really wanted an impartial jury, they would have like a lottery from all 50 states, and you draw 12 people from 12 of those states, and they come to Idaho, and they sit on the jury.
Yeah.
So you have people from every state that has different upbringing, different beliefs, different spiritual aspects, whatever. It's never going to happen. But think about that aspect. If you were called to that jury and you're from Texas, where it's a death penalty state, like it's an express lane down here, we kill them, we bag them, we kill them. I hate to exaggerate with that, but and I won the lottery. Well, hell, I'd be pro-death penalty, because that's my belief. That's where I grew up. That's what, that's all I've ever heard about. But then you got somebody else from a state where there's not death penalty. It'd be a lot more fair, I would think, than to just have 12 jurors from that county.
Well, I assume that the people in the area, maybe there's a desire to not be judged in a courtroom by anybody outside of their state. We have our state, our beliefs, to bring somebody else in could be the very thing that that'd be the very person that is, like you said, death penalty state. You bring in somebody from a non-death penalty state, and they're gonna just on that alone, they're gonna really lean hard because they know that's the final outcome. They're gonna just fight tooth and nail. But I wonder if they just want people that are their friends, their neighbors, to be the ones to judge them, not somebody outside.
Here's a question for you, Jeff. What happens if there's a mistrial? What if some of this YouTube stuff, or some of the witnesses, or some of the leakage, or some of the stuff that's gone on throughout this whole waiting period tarnishes the trial and it comes to a mistrial? Do they start all over? Do they let him go? Do they retry him? Do they go looking for somebody else? Because right now, during the Supreme Court aspect of it, I don't know if you knew that. I read that yesterday. The Supreme Court is deciding why the judge decided 3 times not to dismiss the case. So that's going to be the big thing in the near future. But back to what I was saying is, if it comes to a mistrial, where do we go from here?
Right. Well, I'm sure that's what they're trying to avoid, and that's the reason, I guess, for the gag order. I think that's the reason. Other than the Linda Lane footage being leaked, I don't know of too much else that has been leaked. There definitely hasn't been anything like the photographs in the Delphi case that got leaked by the somebody that got fired in the law office. Things like that.
You're fired. Okay, I'm downloading all this shit. The newspaper office.
Right. Yeah. People hold a grudge, and they want revenge and get back at you. But
Sabrina, you get to feeling better. I hope that your health issues get better. Definitely keep us in the loop. Let us know that if there's anything we can do, we will definitely keep you in prayer.
I like how she called White Lion Kimba.
If there's anything we can do, I've been calling her Kimba. What is it, Timba?
Oh, Well, White Lion is but I mean, it's the picture. The picture is of Kimba, the White Lion.
No, but the White Lion said, "I am Kimba."
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's a cool name.
Sabrina, we will be on tomorrow, probably about 8 o'clock or so, a little bit. Same thing, White Lion. We will be here a little after 8. We're going to be discussing the launcher. We're going to be discussing, we're going to be showing some other footage that Jeff has that he's going to discuss. And we're going to go from there. If you guys know of anybody who's subscribing to our channel or isn't subscribed, well, nice to meet you, Kim. It isn't WSU Kim Mom, right? If y'all know anybody that you can kind of bring this way so that you guys can have some more interaction in the chat. I know that we're trying to get you guys involved because there's not very many of you. But we really do appreciate it. We appreciate you being here. I think Jeff and I are going to continue to talk. So if you guys need to go, we understand. We really enjoy you being here. She said no. Prove it. There's no receipts. Prove it. Your wording is not enough. We need receipts. We need screenshots and video, and we need somebody's blood to vouch for you and everything else. Where'd you go, Jeff?
Oh, sorry, I muted my mic. I said basically
Go ahead.
everything can be doubted. Everything. I guess that's why there's the phrase unreasonable doubt. But I muted my mic because I was looking to see if any of my those recordings from our playing tonight came through to my iPhoto yet. So, but now that I think about it, I don't think I can share. Wait, no, can I share a file with audio if it's not in the web browser?
I don't know. I wondered if I would think about copyright, like if y'all covered anything.
No, this is an original song.
Okay.
And I think but because I think if I remember right, when I tried to present it from, like, say, QuickTime Player, let's see, present, share screen. Yeah, it says to share audio, you have to share a tab instead. Dang. So it's gotta come from Chrome, which means I guess I'd probably have to, like, post it to YouTube. And then you'd be able to.
Kim, you're good. I was just joking. I have a dry sense of humor like that. If you continue to come to the show, you will notice that my humor is dry. You know, sometimes it comes across a little serious, but I was just joking with you. Really glad that you're here in Westside LA. Never been there, but I've heard that it's interesting on the West Coast. Thank you so much for being here.
Mm-hmm.
So Jeff,
yeah.
Did you get it figured out?
No, it looks like no matter what I do, it's if you take a file and try to open it using Google Chrome, it just downloads it into your downloads folder. So it doesn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you can download it into an audio file and then just play it and share the browser.
Seems like there's got to be a way. I mean, I guess most times I've seen people are sharing, like, photographs. Oh, wait. Share video file. Oh, that's all it is. What am I thinking? Oh, there we go. I think this would play with audio.
Yeah, we've been promising this for a while, so go ahead and share it if you can.
Okay, you should see it down in, like, the backstage area.
Oh, there it is. Man, I always forget to look down there, and like a while ago, you were there for about 5 minutes.
Oh, this is a bad example because this is the song I was playing the wrong song for the first 3 measures. Yeah, see, hold on, let me forward a little bit.
There you go.
That's our bass player Tony sitting in with us. He's not a regular member of the band, but
Okay.
doing a nice little bass solo here.
Hey, that looks like a nice little place, huh?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's like little kind of little stage, restaurant, bar. So the band is called Soul Strangers with a C on the end.
Okay. Looking good, man. Got you. Here comes the chick.
Yeah, I might take a solo here. Let me see. No. Oops. No extra charge for mistakes. So anyway, that's a little bit of our performance tonight. We just like it was basically less than an hour. It went by so fast. I feel like we had just gotten warmed up. But
Right.
they had like I think 4 or 5 bands, so we were on from like 5 to 6. And I was looking at my GPS, and it was like saying I'm going to get there 10 minutes before we're supposed to start playing. And I was like, oh no.
Oh,
And
wow.
I tried to drive like not too fast, not going over the speed limit too much, but a little bit. But yeah,
Yeah.
it worked out good. I got there, put my amp up. If I'd have found a parking space a little quicker, we would have been less rushed. But thanks for showing that. That was
Yeah, no problem, man. That was pretty awesome. I always liked live music. I always like going to places like that to, play live music and just keep the atmosphere going.
And once I start teaching you guitar, and then you're going to be doing it, and we're going to be getting up on stage together and jamming, and why not, right?
I had a friend of mine tell me this the other day, and if she's watching, she's probably gonna laugh. But I was telling her, I said, "Man, if I would have talked like I do now, I probably would have got more chicks in high school." And she said, "Nah." She said, "Now, if you would have played guitar,
Really?
back in high school, you definitely would have got more chicks." Then I was like, "Man, I knew it. I knew that's how it was." Jeff was trying to minimize that, but I knew that's how it was.
Yeah, that's right. We were talking about the other night with whether it's the jocks, the sports jocks that got the chicks, or the musicians.
Yeah, and I just thought that was hilarious.
You know what you can get at Target though to get you started.
What's that?
This out. I got this for Christmas. Look, it's a little Lego guitar. I've still got to put the amplifier together, but
that's awesome, man.
Guitar. Isn't that pretty cool?
Yeah, that is awesome.
See, it says Fender on it.
It's got you can get a fairly decent guitar from a pawn shop or somewhere, That's what I usually start off with, because I don't want to buy a big amount of guitar, especially if I don't know how to play it, because I'd rather, return something that was like $150 versus $800. You know what I mean? So
Right. What? Oh yeah. Hold on. I got this one. This was a cool guitar. Whoops. Sorry, it's a mess down here, but you could get something like this. It's called a backpack acoustic. I've got a broken string on it and everything. But I bought this when I started taking. Remember, I was telling you about I was taking guitar lessons from that guy.
yeah.
So we were gonna take a little vacation for a few days, and I didn't want to stop playing, and I knew I couldn't fit a guitar in the vehicle with all the family and everything.
Right.
So I went over there and I bought this, and man, this thing was able to I just put it in the back of the van. I think we rented a van, just slid between the window and the
wow.
all the suitcases and stuff. But yeah, it's just a little, I was probably not tuned. Yeah, it's all out of tune.
Hey, that'd be nice to learn on.
Yeah, it's I still remember when I was in the hotel during our vacation, and I was driving everybody crazy just practicing, the do re mi. That kind of thing. Does that come through the microphone okay? Can you hear it at all?
Yeah. That comes across really good.
That's the first thing I learned to play on the guitar. Remember I said did I say I had a neighbor, this kid that lived across the hall? He had a guitar, and that was maybe somebody else I was talking to. But yeah, the first thing he showed me. Just tune this. But just the basic blue. I'm out of tune. So that's where it all started.
Yeah.
It's nice because the fingering on when you change is the same position.
Yeah.
You just move it down. So see, you could do this. If you
so
can
it gives you a different sound every time you move your finger, right?
Yeah.
Like a deeper or a higher pitch.
Yeah, and if you know your alphabet up to the letter G, you're fine. See, there's C, C, D. C is often used to teach because it's just in a nice position. It also correlates with piano being all the white keys, but if you can say C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. And then, it's also the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 8. So 1 and 8 are the same note. It just like they're they're the same letters. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, or do if you're into the sound of music. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. But yeah, if you can count to 7, it's 7 notes, and your alphabet.
So where'd you pick that up at? On Amazon or somewhere?
No, I just went to a Guitar Center and and bought it. Yeah, it's made by I don't know if you can see it, but it's scraped off a lot. Made by Martin. I don't know, like $100 or so, maybe 200. I don't know. But it's it's small. It's very thin this way, that way.
Yeah, I might need a new hobby. Get good enough to just get on here and jam together, and jam for hours.
You can do I don't have the strings. All the tune again.
You know, you're legit. I mean, that's a receipt for real. I've heard some people, they carry guitars around. They're like, yeah, I'm really good. And they start strumming and you're like, they don't even strum a full song or not even the intro. And they're like, hold on. I'm not. Then they start strumming. Yeah, hold on. You're
Yeah.
like, bro, you're about as good as me at this point because I could probably strum what you're strumming. You know, you're legit,
Right.
man.
Yeah, it takes I am terrible at following through and learning an entire song. I do start off and then I don't know if it's like squirrel, if I get distracted and see something
Right.
and then start doing something else. I'm trying to I think I switched from bass to guitar for this band recently. It seems with this bass player, as long as he sticks around, I hope he decides to stick around because it allows me to play guitar instead of bass.
Right.
And it's different when you're on bass. I think you can get away with things of you don't know the song necessarily. As long as you know the chords, you can play something that fits. But a lot of times the guitar parts can be kind of distinct, and that's what I noticed playing tonight. Is that probably most of the songs we played, I was probably playing very similar stuff in all of them. So,
yeah.
So, but my bass lines for the songs, they're very, they're very unique that fit. It took a while to actually write stuff that's different that fits the song. But
do you think people get on? Do you think people send spies to other channels to see, like to get information? Like this channel talked about this. Let's make it into our own, whatever type stuff.
Well, I know this much. I know I'm going to watch the other channels, and I'm going to say they're not using the word nefarious as much as they used to. Remember you talking about that? They get that word.
I made a comment about that in one of my streams. I was like, the word of the day is nefarious. I mean, because that word was out there for a long time. And Daniel from Drunk Turkey was the first person that I heard saying 100%. And then after that, I heard everybody saying that. And then, boom.
Yeah.
That was Crime Circus. And then after that, everybody, I mean, a lot of creators were going, I got a boom for you, or here's a boom for you.
Right.
Like, bro, I don't know what my catchphrase is. Probably, if I watch these enough, I'll probably catch it, Oh,
when are you going to start opening your show and you're going to start saying, you're looking amazing, just simply amazing this morning. This is video 3 of 2 of 7.
I've made a conscious effort, no matter how pro-social I am, not to do that because of that. I don't believe that I need to stroke your ego. If you're here in my chat or you're here on panel, that should be enough to tell you you're worthy of being on this channel, because you are somebody and your thoughts and your beliefs are appreciated.
Yeah.
They're never discouraged or challenged. I don't believe in challenging people's beliefs because you can't change another person unless they're ready to change.
Right.
We could come up with all the most amazing rebuttals for things, and unless somebody says, hey, that sounds pretty damn good, I think I'm going to go with that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to change my mind. They changed my mind. I'm going to go with what they're talking about. It's just going to be blah, 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 blah.
Well, I think isn't it one of those things too? It's like because you can't fake your mind being changed. If you jump on board with what somebody else believes and it's different than what you truly, truly believe, you're faking it. And you know that you don't believe the words coming out of your own mouth. But the moment it really truly happens and your mind has changed, you know that's happened. I mean, I like to say I'm open-minded. I mean, I do, and people will doubt that. But the thing is, I think it's I can't fake it. I can't fake that I'm believing what I believe. This is what I believe, and this is what I'm sharing. And but I try to be open to, like, this little thing we did tonight was very interesting because it makes you stop and try and think differently. I mean, that whole notion, that's the first time that's ever come to my mind. But like, what are the chances, maybe the knife sheath was touched and left out there, or, picked up by Koberger out in the back parking lot or somewhere and discarded.
Yeah.
Oh,
Or maybe he dropped it. Like he was in such a hurry, he pulled the knife out, threw it, meaning to toss it back in the car.
It landed in the bed on the third floor.
It landed on the
open.
concrete.
Oh.
Somebody found it. I don't know. Maybe the dog brought it in.
Well,
the dog found it.
Yeah, brought it
in. Tucked it under matting. Yeah.
It's like, who gave you this, Murphy? Who gave you this? Ruff, ruff. Bushy eyebrow guy? Really?
Don't forget that dog barking tomorrow. I mean, I just kind of did a spoiler alert, but I wanna do that. I want to present that just to present it, because when you showed me that night, I was like, this gives a voice to the dog bark. An actual dog that is what's being spoke on.
Right. Wait, where was that? I do have it. I have it even close by. It's just,
well, don't show it yet. We'll show it tomorrow.
Okay.
We'll show it.
Oh, that's
tomorrow.
right. Well, we verified that I can play video files with audio from the music, so that's working.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm glad you were able to hop up. I mean, we've been doing this now for 3 hours now.
No way.
Man, 3 hours goes fast. Like,
well, how long were you going before I jumped in?
I started at
it's midnight now.
7?
Here? Wow.
Wait, I started almost at 8 o'clock. I think it was 7:55 or something like that. Maybe it was 8 o'clock. It was after 8 o'clock.
It says we only have one watching. I guess that's me.
Yeah, I don't have any watching, so I guess I'm not even watching.
You're not even watching. Yeah. So I switch over to YouTube to see. Yeah, and there's only one.
A lot of people rewatch these, and that's fine with me. I mean, it doesn't matter how you watch it, as long as you're open-minded like we are, and try to present a different avenue. Because there's people saying, well, they're grifters because they're constantly tagging Idaho4 just to get views and clicks. That's not why I'm doing it.
Right.
I'm doing it because I'm presenting some different information that I've never heard spoken on.
Right.
I mean, I've heard the DNA being presented, but what they've done is they've shown other people's videos of them talking and not explaining what it is that they just heard. You get what I'm saying? Like, I can play a video and I can put a web page up and not read it and have you read it and then say, well, let's just go with what your interpretation is, not my own.
Yeah. It makes you kind of like a video DJ. You're just playing videos of this, that, and whatever.
Yeah. Like your video, the enhancement of the Linda Lane was the first one that I saw enhanced.
Yeah.
That and the one where you did with the different filters. I don't know which one it is, but the one with the bicycle in the beginning of it, and it shows.
Oh yeah. The difference mode.
Yeah, you were the first person that I saw do that, and then after that, I noticed other people, namely someone called Waters. I don't know. I don't want to put their name out there, but yours was more cinegraphic. It was more professional looking.
Yeah, I could show you real quick what that difference mode, because it not only works in Adobe Premiere for video editing, but it's the same exact thing. It's made by the same company, Adobe Photoshop. I'm trying to think of, though, you kind of need two two images.
Why don't you prepare a video or like a demonstration for tomorrow, or we can even open the one that you have on the page, and we can use that and talk about that a little more, because I don't think people really understand what they're looking at. I think sometimes they're looking at a shadow and they believe that that's the image that they're supposed to be seeing.
Right. The new thing that somebody I saw a video of and commented on and just recently, that now they're questioning the footage they're looking at, and they're looking for evidence of where somebody was scrubbed out or erased from the image. And they think that the artifacts that they're seeing, that I believe are just nothing more than video compression artifacts in low quality video, they see this moving stuff and say, this is where they erased the person. And the thing is that the crime happened November 13th. The very next day, the landlord that owns the camera turned over the footage. Actually, I think gave access to the FBI to.
It was quick
to access his files on his, and so there was no time to scrub people out or edit people out. And I've emailed him, a few times. I don't know him super well, but he seems like a really good guy, and is a native there in the area. And I feel, after talking to him, I really feel like this is a town with good people. And that's why it's really hard to hear people talk really badly and poorly about, like, the law enforcement there, the people there. But he was, I just don't get this. I don't get the sense that he is like a video editor. I don't think he would. There wasn't the time to do this. But I think if he were to see footage and he would say, wait a minute, on my original copy that I have right here, there are people there at whatever time it was, and now they've been erased. So it wouldn't.
You'd be smart enough to back up a copy for yourself before you gave the original.
Well, he did, because it's leaked. The leaked copies that everybody has, initially came. First it went to law enforcement the day after, and then the copies, I imagine he shared with someone and probably told them not to share. And then they reacted just like a lot of us do. It's like, oh my gosh, do you hear that at 2 a.m.? I was like, if you ask me, I was like, oh yeah, I used to go up to Ithaca College. I had a friend up there, and man, it's 2 a.m. That's what it sounded like up there too. Drinking, partying, yelling, screaming. Hey, they had the quad, was the big grassy area. Yeah. I see my friend all the way across the other side of the quad. Hey, Joe, what are you doing? Joe, come on over. Yeah. And then, but on a poor recording on a camera that's under $100, hey, Joe, come over. Sounds a lot like somebody being unalived if that's what you're listening for.
In reality, what a lot of people have said, and I think I remember a panel that we both used to frequent, he stated, when somebody shows you something or they tell you, hey, listen to this is what is said. In your mind, even if it's not what you hear, you're still going to hear it, or you're still going to see it. Like if somebody says, hey, look behind those bushes, you see those shadows of stabbing images, you're looking and you're like, oh, I see something moving, but it might be a stabbing, but it might not. That in your mind, you're like, that's not a stabbing, that's a tree blowing or whatever. But you start to question yourself because somebody gave you the subliminal message.
Yeah.
It's kind of like commercials for food. How they do it, they present the image that gives your brain the remembrance of what a hamburger tastes like, feels like when you hold it, and then they put in the wording, have it your way, hot, fresh. Mm-hmm. I'm getting salivating just talking about it. And that's the subliminal message that is processed when people do stuff like this.
Yeah.
It's silly for me to think that they were murdered anywhere but where they were found.
Right.
That would be a lot. I mean, I don't know if you've ever carried a deceased person, or think about when you carry somebody in a casket, how heavy that casket is.
Right.
And you know, when you lift that casket by itself, it's pretty sturdy, but it's not that damn heavy.
Right. Right.
I
And
mean,
how do you transport their blood with them from wherever it happened, and now you're transporting their body and their blood as well? I mean, isn't the blood going to coagulate and dry up pretty quickly? I mean, yeah,
exactly.
I don't see
I
that.
mean,
And you're telling me all these police officers and FBI agents are going to be fooled. They're going to be like one of them. Hey, Joe, do you think these bodies were moved from like 100 yards away or something?
yeah, did they find
gonna know.
gravel? Did they find gravel on the body? Did they find any kind of grass clippings or any kind of prick marks? Because as you're dragging somebody across the ground, they're going to have all kinds of abrasions, especially on that asphalt, or if you're
Also,
carrying them.
too, it's like, well, we talk about like how did this killer do it, and we imagine, coveralls, gloves, a mask. He's been very careful to not get his DNA on the victims. So you're telling me people can carry these bodies and not get? So at some point, did Enon Harsh look out his window over at the house and say, "What are those guys in hazmat suits carrying that dead guy?" What?
Right.
Really? Is that really the plausible solution to? I mean, if it almost
We'll
seems
give
like
you a pound of weed.
I don't. That's what.
We'll give you a pound of weed, Enon, if you shut up and
Yeah.
say you didn't see a damn thing.
And a bottle of wine.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, I know a really, really redneck guy who got married, and the preacher looked like the bass player from like Foghat or something. And I was talking to him at the wedding, and he said, "Yeah, I met the groom. We kind of hit it off, became friends." He said, "Yeah, he basically did the service for the wedding." He said, for like a bottle of vodka and a bag of weed. I was like, that's the going rate to get a preacher to marry you out there, I guess.
Wow.
And there was a guy with one leg that I was talking to also next to the preacher, and he was like, I was like, "What happened with your leg?" And because they were talking about it, and he said, "Oh, it was a tractor accident." So I was like, there was like no end to the stories that came out of that wedding. There was a friend of mine who I showed pictures of the wedding too that I took. He's like, "Man, this needs to be made into a movie. Nobody would believe this."
I tell you.
Yeah, the groom had to run out. One of the guests had run off the road on the way up there, coming up the hill, and ran off into the mud. So he had to go. He hopped on his tractor and went and pulled him out of the ditch. And this is all prior to the wedding happening. And
you have a pig running through the reception area and 3 boys chasing
it. Yeah, Susie. Yeah, that was something else.
But I mean, getting back to what we're saying, there's common sense and then there's movie sense. We've seen enough movies that we could put plausible things, and we're like, some people are like, well, they make movies because things that they saw or they heard of that were real, that's what they're showing us in movies. Not necessarily. A lot of it's imagination. People have imagination, and unfortunately, a lot of theories that people think are theories are people's imaginations running wild.
Yeah.
Because you're telling me the whole town had something to do with these murders? Because that's what you're basically saying. That the whole town knew about it, they participated in it, or they watched it.
Yeah.
And the cops were oblivious to the fact. They were too busy being distracted by not drunk people and people stealing signs. So those 2 distractions were enough to distract them from hearing a scream. I mean, just
Yeah.
The whole town was in on it. It was just a conspiracy for the whole town to get famous. That's all it was for. Because this was Sodom and Gomorrah, and the church needed to get the sinful people out of their town.
Right.
Because this was such a trap house that God knows all the dope they were pushing under the tunnels to get to Alaska. You know.
You know what I want though is I've looked on Amazon and I can't find it, but the Coca-Cola can that's also a camera, like that the guy had at the food truck. you know, you've heard those stories, right?
Yeah.
That
They've
was
started that back up again. They put him back in the mix again.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
I
They've
wish he'd come.
always said he was an FBI agent taking pictures of Maddie and Kaylee.
Maybe he'll come on your show and do an interview, because I think it seems pretty wrong to run a guy like that through the mud when, it sure seems to me all he was doing was just getting food at a food truck. The next thing you know, you're like, they're scrutinizing everything you do. And it's funny too, it's like it wasn't until I put that grub truck video together where it was cutting from shot to shot to shot. And when you're doing that, when you're putting it together, you're paying a little more closer attention than just hitting play and watching it. You could tend to miss stuff that way. But when I was putting it together, and it's like, well, here you can clearly see he orders the Coke, and the guy that takes the orders stands up, because I guess there's a cooler that he's either sitting on or it's right. He can't open it where he's sitting. Stands up, pulls the Coke and the bottle of water out that he ordered and places them there. So like, if you think Joe had a Coca-Cola camera, well, then that of course means that the guy at the grub truck has to be in on it too, because he purchased it and he gave it to him pretty quickly. So it's like, how do you know which ones are real Cokes and which ones are the cameras?
Because everything that they were ordering was code name for drugs.
Right.
They had drugs in mac and cheese. Didn't you know that?
Yeah, surely. Yeah, and then the stuff being put in.
Got all that information from the stolen creator that you stole it from, the grub truck.
Right.
Because you're a thief, Jeff. You can't make your own stuff up. You just have to take other creators.
Right.
Oh Lord.
Yeah. I love just a common sense conversation about this stuff. Just like, I think I often wonder if you can just get on the cameras, you get an audience watching, and then you're no longer just a person talking to another person. Now it's a show. You've got an audience. You've got you all of a sudden you've got to be like Barnum and Bailey Circus. We need to entertain and we need to do the show. And I don't know. I think in this kind of thing, this is real people that lost their lives. These should be real people that are talking about it and discussing it. This is a real person that could lose his life as well. So we should just be discussing this.
Yes, it's almost like people are waiting for the next big case.
Yeah.
Delphi has been going on so long that the only people that are really reporting on that are the people that really have nothing to really talk about right now. I never got into reporting about Delphi because none of it makes sense to me. I mean, I don't even want to go down a lot of that because I don't really want to spend any time.
Well, maybe that's too what a lot of the people that are talking about that case and have been talking about it for a while. I know because I've seen it in the Idaho case. You're in it. You've covered everything probably, and then you see newer people coming along, start talking about the case, and they've got misunderstandings. They're going over old ground that you've already covered, and so then you're basically the one that can educate to say, hey, this is the explanation for what you're wondering about, and we've been down that road, and there's nothing wrong with going down it again, but there's nothing wrong with you don't know the truth.
The difference in new creators that are coming along to talk about this stuff, I believe that maybe I'm biased, but I believe the way we are doing it is totally different than anything I've ever seen done up to this point. We're discussing things and breaking them. We're peeling back the onion peel.
Mhm.
We're getting to the core of what the evidence is and how it's really feasible that this could have happened or couldn't happen based on the information that we have.
Yeah.
We're not adding pieces. We're not throwing innocent people in the mix. We're not, if somebody hasn't been formally charged for this, then in my mind, I don't know how you think, but in my mind, they're cleared until they've been charged. It doesn't matter to me whether you believe it, whether you saw him on video, that's a video. Videos can be from months ago.
Yeah.
Kind of like that video where it showed them three walking down the sidewalk. When I first saw that, I thought that wasn't real. I thought that looks like a video that was made probably before the murders, like weeks or months. But then I got to looking at their clothing. That's the only reason that I changed my mind, that their clothing and what they were wearing matched up to that night.
Right.
But the one thing that really tripped me out about that video is that white truck that drove up after they walked past the camera. Automatically,
Yeah.
the white truck, that big white truck, that loud ass white truck. And supposedly at the grub truck, that white truck revved its engine more than once driving by. I don't know how true that is, but supposedly
I did hear I didn't connect it or associate it with the truck. I did hear an engine that I assumed was like a car or somebody's but I think I know what you're talking about. I did see that.
Yeah, supposedly that big white truck revved this engine up. I don't know if that was a cue. That was a kid being a kid.
Right.
Because there's a reasons why you make your trucks or your cars loud. Because you like the way it sounds. So any chance you get, you're gonna rev it up.
Yeah, and that kind of goes against the idea of somebody that might be a killer. It's like it seems to be, to do that to your truck, you want to be seen, you want to be remembered. And I don't think that's two things that, a killer wants at all.
Well, one thing that I've really noticed on my investigation of this case and, digging deep into my studies and stuff, there's three things that are needed by somebody to commit a crime. Most of the time, they're not sober. They're intoxicated. They're delusional. Their mental health is off. They're not in their right mind. Because most people are programmed to fight to live, not to kill.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing is opportunity. Who has the opportunity to get to these people? How did you have the opportunity? And was it an opportunity that you had every day that made it easier for you to have the element of surprise? That's the third one. The element of surprise.
Mm.
You do it in a way that nobody expects it, not even the people that you're taking out. Because if they're expecting it, that's going to make it extra hard for you to do what you came to do.
Right.
If
Yeah, because
they're
that levels the playing field and makes it fair, that they know what you're going to do, and then you've got to do it. But yeah, it would seem to me they don't want the playing field fair. They want to, it's like these crimes you see of people hitting somebody in the head that are walking down the sidewalk. They come up behind them, knock them out, and then run away. So,
yeah, kind of like that University of Georgia murder. She was just jogging and she got attacked and killed by somebody she didn't even know, but took the opportunity for her to be jogging and possibly having an earbud in her ear or something, or being distracted. That's another one, distraction.
Hmm.
So what would have distracted these 4 roommates that night that caused all 4 of those things to line up for the perfect storm?
Hmm.
That's the question, if anything, you should be asking. Those 4 things align perfectly for this individual, whoever did it, to commit these crimes.
Right.
Opportunity, distraction, element of surprise, and what was the first one? Oh, being under the influence of something, mental health issues, drugs, alcohol, something, because it's not natural for somebody to be of sound mind to just kill somebody. It's not. I
Right.
mean, there have been cases. I'm not trying to say it doesn't happen, but normally that's why they talk about motive so much. What was the motive? What was the motive? The intent lead to the motive. So the killer intended to kill these people because of blank.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're asking about blank, that's when you ask those 4 questions. Opportunity, impaired,
Mental health. Yeah.
mental health, distracted. I forgot what the 4th one was. I'm getting tired, I think. Rewind the video, you'll figure it out.
Yeah, it's there. It's documented.
Yeah. But I mean, does that make sense or not? Does that, if you're breaking it down, if you're really thinking about it logically, those 4 questions, if you can find the answer to that, you're going to find the motive.
Yeah.
And if you find the motive, this is what I'm talking about, digging your teeth into the evidence. You're biting bits and pieces of the evidence to lead to the eventual food that you're looking for. So, okay, if you find out the motive, okay, these 4 things led to this person. And this person is the only person that really fit this criteria. This person doesn't even fit 3 of the 4. This person doesn't even fit 1 of the 4.
Mm-hmm.
This person fit 2 of the 4. Okay, let's look into them a little deeper. Okay, we're making up 2 of those things that really aren't that specific. So let's kind of put them on the back burner just in case this one doesn't pan out. But this one meets all 4 of them. He relapsed. He was on drugs again. Maybe he was in a hypermania state. Maybe he was hearing voices. Maybe he was seeing things. Maybe he had taken some drugs that gave him the illusion that he was really not doing what he was doing. The opportunity was there. He knew their schedule. The element of surprise was there. The DoorDash driver dropped off some food. They were going to be eating. At least 2 of them. The other 2 were asleep, supposedly. And the 4th one was opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
The opportunity was there because they're all 4 together in that house. You know that they don't leave once they come in for the night because you've watched them enough. And you go in, there's your opportunity to take care of what you came to do. Because a lot of individuals, when they commit these crimes, they say, well, they planned it for months. No. He could have been watching them for 6 of those 12 times. And he realized, okay, tonight's the night. I'm done. I'm tired of fucking around. I'm tired of watching.
Mm-hmm.
Take some good LSD or, whatever. And says, you know what? It's game time. It's on. And the next morning he woke up, if he went to sleep at all, because I'm sure he was high on adrenaline. And if he was high on anything else, he stayed up all night. So he was delusional. realized, oh shit, I lost the sheath. Damn, I must have left it there. Oh well, fuck it. I was wearing 2 pairs of gloves. There's no way that they're gonna pin it to me. I don't like talking like this because I sound like a killer, you know.
Right. Everybody's gonna think you're Papa Rogers.
Yeah.
Huh.
Wait till that rumor 12 gauge is really the Idaho 4 killer.
Right.
No, this is based on stuff that I've learned this semester. You know, everything that I'm talking about is stuff that I've learned. He was in criminal justice. He learned it too. It's not like we teach individuals this way one state, we teach them this other way another state. My college is through Washington D.C. and it's ran by a lot of former Quantico employees, and you know, a lot of the professors have actually been in the field that they're teaching. You know what I mean?
Right.
So they give firsthand experience on what they teach you. And I mean, those 4 things you have to remember. So if somebody wants to argue with you about something, ask them those 4 things. How were these 4 things capable? How was this person capable of doing these 4 things? Was there opportunity? Were they in the area? Were they under the influence? Was there any mental health issues going on at that time? Or were there element of surprise?
Doesn't seem too with like, it seems like with most people, like as you break it down and start considering people that could be guilty, it's like, it seems like for most people, like if they'd asked me, it's like 4 a.m. Yeah, I was asleep. I was definitely asleep. And this person over here, doesn't fit with that guy because of this reason. This guy doesn't fit because of that reason. And then you get to that one guy, it's like, wait a minute, gosh, your phone was off. You were driving around. You admit to driving around, you know, and before you know it, it's like, wow, a lot of pieces fit here. And that's why I think when I think about like if it was like somebody that was nefariously planting, trying to make it look like it's this guy, it's like if I were to try and get you in trouble in this way, it's like, okay, I got some of 12 gauge's DNA. I'm going to put it on the knife sheath. I'm going to put it under the victim there. And then what? He went driving this night? Oh, that just makes it even perfect. I mean, it's like, what are the chances he would go driving on the same night and he came into this area and he got seen on a camera, right? This is perfect. This is perfect. You know, everybody's going to believe it's 12 gauge. I can't believe that guy just has the worst luck. He just by coincidence happened to do all the things that go along with this sheath planting that we did. I just thought, you know, they'd find him in bed and then say he was asleep all night. And it's like, we'll still pin it on him or something. Yeah, I don't know.
You know, also, yeah, you're right. I mean, also, Jeff, you know, you have enough evidence, even if it's circumstantial, you have enough evidence to prove without a reasonable doubt in your mind to ask for the death penalty. They didn't ask for life in prison. They didn't ask for the maximum sentence, which, you know, could have been 5 to 99. They asked for the death penalty. That is like they trumped down. They used the ace of spades, you know, to say, fuck those other cards. We're going with the big boy. And we're not backing down from this at all. So that tells you, as flimsy as you think their evidence is, or you don't think they have enough evidence, why would they go with the big boy if they're planning on letting him plea out? Like I talked about a plea bargain the other day, and I got a comment that said something about, was a plea mentioned or something like that? And I was like, no, but there's been other cases that have had the death penalty, and the defendant has pleaded for life in prison based on him giving the evidence or giving the body up or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
None of that has been brought up, but it's a possibility. It's always a possibility.
Right.
You know, he could say, "Hey, I'll plead to life in prison if you, if you, take the death penalty off, and okay, Mr. Koberger, we'll agree to that, but you got to tell us exactly what happened. You can't write a book. You can't benefit from any of the stories that you put out, and this and that and the other, and you can't recant anything after you've signed the deal. All these things, the stipulation to go behind that. Okay, cool. Give me life in prison. Signs it. He tells the cops what happened. They leak whatever, or they tell the public finally, this is what happened. This is not what happened. Kind of like, and we're either going to be full with their information, or we're going to still be starving for our own interpretation. It's like if you don't understand something, instead of going to understand it, you're relying on other people to give you the information.
Right.
It's like, how to play guitar, but if I wanted to be lazy, instead of teaching myself how to play, I would manipulate it where you would show me, and you would even probably, be playing the guitar for me until I could copy what you were doing and then use it as my own,
Mm-hmm.
That's a dumb example, but it's the best I got at this time. My computer's showing 11:28. Did it already change over?
To what, the time?
Yeah, my wall clock says 11:30. Like, we're springing forward an hour.
Oh,
did
really?
it already do it? Yeah.
I got 12:30 on my clock.
I got 11:26 over here.
Huh.
Yeah.
I didn't know about the time change. Wait, that means we get an hour less sleep than we would have?
Yeah.
Spring forward? Dang, that's too bad because I got to get up early.
Well, man, we're almost at the 4-hour mark, bro.
Yeah.
If somebody watches this all the way through, they're going to get some valuable information, and they're going to get their money's worth. I mean,
yeah, they ought to get a prize if watch it to the end.
Yeah.
Here's the code to download your prize. You waited till the end.
But you got to watch it in the next 5 minutes. You got to donate $100 to get the code to watch it.
It's kind of
real time.
It's kind of like, remember, you like Pink Floyd, right? You listen to Pink Floyd.
Yeah.
On the Wall album, there's that backwards message. It's right around the beginning of the song "Empty Spaces."
Yeah.
Did you ever play it backwards?
No.
It says something along the lines of you have just discovered the secret message. Send your answer to, and then it gives an address in England, I think. But it's pretty cool. I remember the first time I heard that, it's like, oh wow, because it's such a cool thing the way it sounds anyway, backwards and mixed in with all this kind of weird music and stuff. But yeah, that was.
It reminds me of the Christmas Story. That little kid, you'll shoot your eye out.
Right.
Where he sends off for a little orphan Annie decoder thing, and he's in the bathroom. He's like decoding the letters. He's like, eat more Ovaltine. All this for.
Did you ever save like box tops or things like that to try and get prizes? I think I did. I think I saved some cereal box like stuff, and
you mail it in and they send you some cheap ass toy.
What about that documentary? Did you see that documentary about the McDonald's game with the Monopoly board, and how that guy, there was the guy that was cheating the system? I guess, was he part of the security company that was hired to protect the integrity of the game and the winning stickers?
He was the one that,
yeah, he was picking people to win, and then taking a big cut of their winnings.
There's always somebody that's looking to make a good thing not so much of a good thing,
Yeah.
It's like, it's just terrible. It's like, okay, You're poor, be poor. You're rich, be rich. You're middle class, be middle class. Work for better, aspire for better, but
Right.
don't cheat innocent people out of their dream. You know, their dream is
Yeah,
obviously to win it all.
in your work, the work you do you should look at as more than it's just a paycheck. It's more than just some dollars that you're going to spend on something. It's a reflection of you and you know, and what you do. And now it's unfortunate. Some jobs are of course better than others, but you should take pride in your work, and you do a great job because it is a reflection of you. And you know, there's even reminds me of there's a I think a Bible verse that talks about when it comes to looking at things like this, the isn't it like a prayer that's like it's somebody asking God to like don't give me too much riches because then I'll feel like I don't need you anymore, and but don't give me too little because then I might be tempted to steal and tempted to you know, so there's that just that right amount to have to be right there in the middle, you know, so you can be appreciative of what you've got, and you still have a reliance on, you know, on something like God or you know, something like that. But then not the opposite where you're going to be starving and you have no choice. You justify what you're about to do because, you know, maybe and God forbid your family's hungry, and then, you know, and you feel like there's no other choice but to do something, you know, to someone. That's why I remember a guy told me one time, he just summed it up. He said, you know, a lot of our troubles in this world is like, it's a story of the haves and the have-nots, you know, and it's like, it's too, you know, if we could figure out a way to make more have and less have-nots, you know.
But also the ones that they don't have for a reason. It's because they don't know how to manage what they have. If you know, I've always told my clients, if you can't manage $50, how am I going to give you $300? Because you're going to treat that $300 like you treat that $50, which is going to last for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
How are you going to manage $1,000? Or how am I going to give you $1,000 if you can't even manage 500?
Right.
You know, you're spending more than you get, so therefore you're never going to be able to grow. And a lot of people can't grasp that terminology. You know, they think that, well, they're just oppressed, or, you know, they don't have the same opportunities. Well, we all have the same opportunity. There's a public school system. We all have the opportunity to go to school, get a degree, or get a diploma. There's financial aid, there's student loans. We all have the opportunity to go to college. There's all these jobs that hire degree programs after we get out of college. It may not be the most easy road, but that's when everybody doesn't do it.
Yeah.
But the ones that don't do it oftentimes sit around and complain because, oh, it must be nice that you got this, or it must be nice that you got that. But they weren't around when you were struggling, when you were hungry, when you didn't have this, when you didn't have that.
Right.
Or if they were around, they were the one pulling you down even more because misery loves company.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. That's true.
You know, it's just sad. It's just sad people's perceptions of wealth and not wealth. Because in reality, we're all rich. We just have to uncover the reason for our riches.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a spiritual person, you understand what I'm talking about. You know, there's eternal wealth is not necessarily on this earth.
Right.
It's just we're all waiting in an airport, waiting for a boarding pass to be called.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, it's kind of simple. Just don't be an a-hole in the airport. You know, just be good to each other.
That's what a lot of people's mentality is. I don't get what I want, so I'm going to cause chaos and havoc while I'm here.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and
have you ever thought what happens when you miss your flight? Is that when you go to hell?
That can't seem like hell when you do miss your flight, and especially if you got to spend the night in the airport, get your plane in the morning.
You know what I mean? They only give you the 3 courtesy calls, and
Yeah.
you're in the bathroom pissing or something, and you didn't hear it. And
Or they
you're
give
like,
they give your seat, accidentally give your seat to. They've overbooked the flight. Sorry about your luck.
and you're like, oh shit, there goes the flight to heaven. You missed your flight. Go to the left.
Yeah.
Man, it's getting hot in here. But I had the flight. I had a ticket to that flight. Well, you missed it, bro.
Yeah.
It's a narrow path. You missed it.
Yep.
Yeah,
Good
I can
metaphor.
tell I'm
Good
getting
metaphor.
tired because I'm getting very, very, very analytical. I'm getting.
Yeah. I better
My
go out
mind is
here.
just-
I'm supposed to take some photographs at the church tomorrow, and I got to pull
All
out
right,
my
buddy.
flash gear. I'm going to be using my I've got these flashes that I haven't used in quite a while, and I have to be sure I have batteries. It's going to be a simple shoot. It's just going to be a big soft box with the, with this. I got this this guy right here. This is my 5D Mark III.
Okay.
So, been thinking about upgrading it to the 5D Mark IV, so I can, because this only shoots 1080 video, but Mark IV shoots 4K. So I've been thinking about that, but I don't know if I'm thinking about video. There's other cameras that I think have other features that are better. So.
Well, Sabrina, if you hear this in the morning, if you go back and you watch some more of it, we really do hope that whatever health issues that you're having, that you get healed in the name of God and his blood, because, I'm sure you're a person that is in need right now of that health. And, your health is the most important thing that we have on this earth. Without it, we can't really do much. Jeff and I wish you the best. And if there's anything that we can do, reach out. We'll keep praying for you. I know Jeff could probably put you in the prayer circle or, something like that.
Yeah.
Prayer request. I don't know what they call it at your place of worship, but I'll definitely keep praying, and Jeff will keep praying. And, hopefully we'll see you on the chat. Let us know how you're doing. And White Lion, thank you for coming into the chat and being interactive with us. We really enjoyed it. And anybody else?
Can I share something that for White Lion?
Go ahead.
Wait, did it come through?
Yes, it did.
Okay, check this out.
Kimber, who lives down in deepest, darkest Africa? Who's the one who brought the jungle fame? Who's the king of animals in Africa? Kimber the white lion is his name. When we get in trouble and we're in a fight, who's the one who just won't turn and run? Who believes in doing good and doing right? Kimber the white lion is the one.
Yeah, they don't make them like that anymore, do they?
Jeff, I've never seen that.
Never seen that?
Never.
Wow.
This is the first time. This is like, I'm this years old watching.
Yeah, I used to watch that when I was a kid.
Thanks for sharing that, Jeff.
Yeah, I just thought I looked
buddy.
down at White Lion's little avatar picture, and it's like, I wanted to see it for myself too, because I hadn't seen it in such a long time. It's funny. So that was a 1966 opening for that show. So that's around the time I was born. So I don't want to dox myself with my birth date year and everything.
We do little bits of it, I'm sure. But you have a good night, buddy. And if you're up to
gauge.
If you're up to it tomorrow night, then let me know.
Okay.
Let me end the stream right quick, and then we can chat for a minute.
Okay, sounds good.